Chapter 2185. Following his sixth sense, Lin Feng soon entered a place filled with wind and sand. Unlike the dark green forest from before, this place was covered in yellow soil, and it was a boundless desert. A fierce beast that looked like a cheetah suddenly charged out from the front. It had purple stripes on its body, and a pair of earthen yellow wings on its back. Its speed was extremely fast. Lin Feng's reaction was fast to begin with. As Black Ho fell, the power of a mid-level pinnacle true treasure was fully displayed. A black dragon swallowed the beast in the void, killing the purple-striped flying leopard right away. Its combat power was impressive. Its strength is equivalent to a mid-level god. Lin Feng didn't slow down and continued forward. A mere mid-grade god spirit beast naturally wouldn't be able to stop him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. There were quite a lot of exotic beasts in this desert. This time there were 3 exotic beasts that looked like squirrels. They were small and nimble, and they seemed to have mastered the true essence of wind. They attacked from 3 different angles, and they were extremely adept at combining attacks. 3 ear-piercing sounds were heard, but their strength was only equivalent to a mid-level god. They still couldn't cause any damage to Lin Feng. The ashes of Ash's 3 slashes were shining with cold light. Lin Feng didn't even pause for a moment. They turned into wind energy? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He had a bad feeling. It was impossible to know the Guardian's strength from the strength of the beasts because the strongest beast was less than 10% of the Guardian's strength. Weak beasts might be 1%, 1,000th, or even 1/10,000th of their strength. To estimate the Guardian's strength, one had to run into it directly or the Guardian beast. Because the Guardian beast's strength was only 30% of the Guardian's, it could be estimated clearly. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure moved like lightning, and soon, he was deep into the boundless yellow sand. There are more beasts. Lin Feng had gone through the dense forest before. Compared to here, the contrast was huge. Wind beasts came from the horizon or from the yellow sand. It was impossible to guard against them. Almost every moment, he was in battle. However, most of the mutated beasts were mid-tier deities. Only a small portion of them were high-tier deities, which could be easily dealt with. Even though Lin Feng's combat prowess had been weakened, he was still at the level of an ordinary high god. Deep into the boundless desert, numerous illusory images instantly appeared in the horizon. They were splendid and magnificent like numerous luxurious palaces. On the sparkling and translucent pillars, there were even dragons flying and phoenixes dancing, like the imperial palace of an emperor. Fata Morgana? Lin Feng's heart was moved. He wasn't confused and continued forward. More and more Fata Morgana appeared. Front, back, left, right, and in all directions it was as if they were in an illusion. Guarding his beer tightly, Lin Feng's willpower was firm and he would not be confused. It's a formation. Lin Feng understood. It was as if there were many mirrors, reflecting the original palace into countless other palaces. However, this also proved that this palace was a real existence. If it didn't have a material object, then how could it reflect so many illusory palaces? My sixth sense is still very accurate. Lin Feng smiled. Although he didn't know much about formations, it was still fine here because the reincarnation cycle didn't test one's attainments in formations. The treasure-gathering formation of 10 directions was more of a formation of opportunity than a formation of life and death. I just don't know if this palace is a formation or a treasure land. Lin Feng closed his eyes and relied on his sixth sense to continue forward. It was a little difficult to determine the specific direction, but since he was just a blind cat catching a dead mouse, he might as well go all the way. On the other side of the wind, in the broken corridor canyon, the broken corridor in the middle was extremely eye-catching, as if a giant dragon was lying in the middle. One side of the canyon was overflowing with wind energy, making people feel comfortable and comfortable. The other side was endless darkness, like the Shura hell. This stupid beast is really not stupid. It just showed its head and stopped chasing. Li Qing, whose hair was disheveled and whose face was pale, smiled bitterly. He floated in the air and looked at the other side of the broken corridor canyon. Rich wind elements gathered around him. He chased me all the way here from the god-falling world. He won't stop until he dies. What kind of bad luck did I run into? Why did I provoke him? Li Qing sighed softly. He was really unlucky. Since he got the meteorite vortex, he had been chased by the blood-maned beast King and Tila as if they were enemies. They were inseparable. Although his movement technique was much better than Tila's, the problem was that Tila was much stronger than him. An expert at the peak divine realm. Even now, Tila was still chasing him. Fortunately, I escaped here. I was almost done for. No matter how strong Li Qing's movement technique was, Tila, who had the advantage of the terrain, was simply terrifying in the dark side. Tila used his strength to break through his defense. It took him a lot of effort to escape. Unlucky. Li Qing glanced at the broken corridor again. His figure flashed and left. In this place, he wasn't afraid of the blood-maned beast King and Tila. If Tila dared to chase him, Li Qing was confident that he could injure or even kill him. However, Tila wasn't stupid. The side of the wind. There shouldn't be any experts here to compete with me. As far as I know, only the blood-maned butterfly phoenix is proficient in the path of wind. The other experts aren't proficient in it. However, there's always a chance. There's only one exit. First come, first serve. I have to speed up. Li Qing's meteoric rise was extremely miraculous. In this place, with the enhancement of the wind element, his movement technique had reached the peak. Not to mention high-level Divine Realm experts, even top-tier Divine Realm experts couldn't do anything to him. In the endless desert. I'm close. Lin Feng felt his heart beating a little faster. The mirage in the void was showing two extremes. One was getting deeper and deeper, gradually solidifying, while the other was getting dimmer and dimmer. Soon, they would disappear. Based on the array, such signs should only appear when he was close to the real palace. There had always been a large number of wind beasts. At this time, there were countless of them, as if they were trying to stop him from getting closer. However, it might be a little troublesome for other high-level Divine Realm experts, but for Lin Feng, numbers were never a problem. Boom, boom, boom. Although his strength had been weakened, Lin Feng was best at group battles. Facing the wind beasts, whose strongest was only a low-level Divine Realm expert, no one was left alive when his saber fell. Soon, he was close to the target. The surrounding yellow sand and wind blew on his face. There was a faint fluctuation of wind. Lin Feng gradually slowed down, and the virtual image in front of him gradually took shape. Slap! The other mirages around him all dissipated, leaving only one. What was virtual was real, and what was real was virtual. This is the destination I'm looking for. Lin Feng stood in front of the glorious palace, looking at the ferocious roaring wind beasts. He stood in front of the huge stone pillar with his head held high, looking majestic. In this place, everything seemed to have become insignificant, and only this glorious palace that had existed for countless years remained. The door opened, and the wind element gathered and contained within. Treasure land? Array formation? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He would know once he entered. Chapter 2186. Since he was here, Lin Feng wouldn't miss it. There was nothing to hesitate about. Even if the wind element was rich and the power of the path of light and darkness was weakened, at least the soul attack wouldn't be affected. Since he had mastered the third level of the Kuan Ling heart arrow, he had the strength of an advanced god. What was there to be afraid of? Whoosh! Lin Feng stepped in. The wind and clouds surged around him, and a roar sounded. It was a spirit beast with a human face and an auspicious body. It stepped on a white auspicious cloud, and had a beard on its face. As it roared, wind blades came from all directions of the palace. Lin Feng's body turned into layers of overlapping shadows and dodged in an instant. Although the attack came very suddenly, Lin Feng was already prepared for battle, so he was not in a hurry. Guardian Spirit Beast. Lin Feng instantly understood. This seemed to be the location of the treasure because there were no guardian spirit beasts in the array. One could only encounter it by chance. Only the treasure was guarded by spirit beasts. This spirit beast with a human face and an auspicious body was obviously different from other beasts. That was its strength. The limit of a high-level god. As soon as the guardian spirit beast attacked, Lin Feng had a clear judgment. His heart trembled. He didn't feel pressure because of the strength of the guardian spirit beast, but because of the guardian spirit at the exit. The guardian spirit beast's strength was 30% of the guardian spirit's. It was already the limit of a god. The guardian spirit's strength was almost certain that it was a top-level god. It was quite difficult to pass. Boundless weight. While dodging the guardian spirit beast's attack, Lin Feng instantly counterattacked. His eyes fell on the depths of the palace. A faint layer of light film blocked everything like an invisible barrier. Behind the light film, there was a room. If he guessed correctly, that was where the treasure was stored. However, to get the treasure, he had to defeat the guardian spirit beast first. This guardian spirit beast was at the limit of a high-level god and was good at the path of wind. He was more powerful than any high-level deity powerhouse. It was already very close to a top-level god because it had the absolute advantage. Bang! Lin Feng's attack was blocked by the raging wind. No matter how powerful the boundless weight was and how outstanding the sword intent was, Lin Feng's lack of strength made it difficult for him to attack. On the side of wind, Lin Feng's power not only did not increase, but was instead weakened. Chi. The counterattack of the guardian spirit beast caused Lin Feng to be slightly injured. The guardian spirit beast was proficient in the Tao of Wind, and its attack speed was extremely fast, making it difficult to dodge. Whoosh! Lin Feng pulled away. This injury was nothing to him, but he was already at a disadvantage. The guardian spiritual beast stepped on a white cloud as if it had a pinnacle true treasure. Its claws and tail all contained strong destructive power. Not only did it exert the speed of the wind, but it also had the power of the wind. The wind howled and shrouded the entire palace. Boom! 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 Lin Feng fought and retreated at the same time. He was at a disadvantage. Let's fight! Taking the attack head-on, Lin Feng's pupils suddenly shone brightly. The third level of the Kunling heart arrow exploded. A whole 30% of his soul power shot toward the guardian spirit beast, piercing through everything. This was an attack at the limit of a high-level god's power. However, it truly pierced through everything. Lin Feng was stunned. The soul arrow shot into the void and disappeared. His soul power returned to his sea of consciousness, not at all consumed. At this moment, the guardian spirit beast's attacks were stronger and stronger. Although Lin Feng tried his best to resist, he was powerless. Bang! His chest felt like it was struck by lightning. Lin Feng tried his best to defend, but he was still injured. The white cloud entered his eyes. Lin Feng's body flashed, and the prison demon palace appeared. He directly landed behind and retreated out of the palace. The violent wind pressure around him instantly lightened. Lin Feng's face was pale, and he let out a long breath. Powerful. Lin Feng took out a fruit of heaven and earth and swallowed it, recovering his injuries. With my current strength, even if I'm not weakened by the terrain, I'm still not its opponent. After trying, he would know who was better. The guardian spirit beast's strength was stronger than he imagined, especially when it had the terrain advantage. It was invincible, and its strength increased greatly. The most troublesome thing was that both the beast and the guardian spirit beast were made of pure energy. They did not have souls. Therefore, soul attacks were completely ineffective against them. His bad premonition came true. It's probably the same for the guardian spirit. Lin Feng digested the fruit of heaven and earth and recovered from his injuries. He did feel the pressure. Indeed, the guardian spirit of the 5 elements was not the weakest. However, he could not even defeat the guardian spirit beast, let alone the guardian spirit. Even if he entered the light and darkness side and had the terrain advantage, he could not use the soul arrow of heaven and earth. He could not defeat the guardian spirit beast. The guardian spirit of yin, yang, and force is the weakest, but that's only relative. The guardian deity of the 5 elements has the strength of a top-tier deity. The guardian deities of yin, yang, and force should also have the strength of a top-tier deity. Their strength is comparable to the guardian deities here, but they are not much weaker. Looks like my goal is about to change, Lin Feng thought to himself. His previous goal was to find the exit. But now, even if he found the exit, it would be useless because he was no match for the guardian spirit. The only thing he could do now was to increase his strength. And it was to increase his strength as fast as possible. To increase my combat power and blade technique, I'll go to the space and time side. Ordinary beasts there have the strength of a high-level god. I can definitely improve my blade technique quickly by fighting with them. To increase my strength, I'll go to the light and darkness side and look for a gathering array and treasure land. Lin Feng cleared his mind while recovering from his injuries. If he could not get the treasure, there was no need to force it. Besides, he had no interest in the wind treasures. Even if it was a pinnacle true treasure, he would not be able to use it. It was like an expert who was good at fist techniques getting a peerless sword. What was the use? Similarly, the gathering array of the wind side was not useful for his cultivation. There was no need to stay here. The injuries are not serious. I'll recover soon. Lin Feng continued to refine the fruit of heaven and earth. He was not in a hurry. At least he had wiped out all the beasts outside this palace, and the guardian spirit beast would not come out. It was the safest place to recover from his injuries. 3 days later. I wonder if I'll have the chance to come again. Lin Feng stood up and let out a sigh. He looked at this splendid palace overflowing with wind elements. This was the first treasure land he had found. It was not difficult to find a treasure land, but it was difficult to defeat the guardian spirit beast. Unlike the gathering array, the treasure land was not occupied by those who were fated, but by those who had the strength. If he were to leave now, he reckoned that the next expert would come in and take away the treasures here. In the end, it's not meant to be with me. Lin Feng smiled and left the palace calmly. Since there was something that was not meant to be with him, then there would be something that was meant to be with him. Now it was waiting for him. There were gains and losses in everything. Chapter 2187. After leaving the palace, Lin Feng did not turn back. Instead, he continued to head in the same direction. All the way to the end. Theoretically speaking, the possibility of going to another world was higher this way. At the very least, the long journey earlier had proved that there was no possibility of going to another world. Soon, Lin Feng left the desert and entered a grassland. The wind in every region was different. The wind in the forest was full of vitality, the wind in the desert was violent, and the wind in the grassland was comfortable. As he enjoyed the refreshing wind, Lin Feng's mood was calm, and he had long forgotten about his previous defeat. In terms of strength, he was at the bottom among all the experts. What's there to be concerned about if you correct your attitude? Weak was weak. However, it did not mean that he would always be weak. Qi. The black qi streaked across, easily killing a wind beast. Once upon a time, I had to take a detour when I saw such mid-level gods. Lin Feng sped forward. Now, mid-level gods were like mud in front of him, at his mercy. Even if he could not use the Kuan-Ling heart arrow, even if his strength was weakened, his strength was still at the level of a high-level god. Otherwise, when he encountered the guardian spirit beast in the palace that day, he would not even have the chance to escape. At least for now, he was still safe and sound. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Lin Feng sped forward, spreading his soul power around, sensing the changes in the surrounding energy to see if there were any traces of another world. Suddenly, Lin Feng slowed down and revealed a surprised expression. A familiar aura. Swoosh. The azure dragon phantom appeared, flashed, and turned into a real figure. A figure in green appeared in front of him, smiling. It was the Azure Dragon King, Li Qing, whom he had not seen for a long time. "Senior, long time no see," Lin Feng greeted. "I was wondering who it was." "So it's you, little brother." Li Qing's eyes lit up with surprise. "Since we parted that day, little brother, your progress has been remarkable. Congratulations." "Senior, aren't you the same?" Lin Feng said with a smile. The current Azure Dragon King, Li Qing, was already a high-level deity expert. He had crossed a crucial threshold. Li Qing smiled in a carefree manner. "How could it be the same? I've been trapped on this level for quite some time. I only managed to make a breakthrough when I was in the second cycle of reincarnation. However, little brother, you've ascended several levels consecutively. It's truly amazing." Although Li Qing had a smile on his face, he was extremely shocked. That day when he met Lin Feng, it was when Lin Feng was in a sorry state after being poisoned. At that time, Lin Feng's strength was like heaven and earth compared to now. But now, Lin Feng, it made him feel oppressed. It wasn't a threat, but a suppression that came from the bottom of his heart. Only when facing an opponent stronger than him would he have such a feeling, just like the blood-maned beast king and Tila. The feeling Lin Feng gave him was not inferior to Teal at all. He has actually become so strong? Li Qing found it hard to believe. However, he was very clear about his own body. This was definitely not an illusion. Lin Feng really did have the strength. "By the way, which world did you come from, senior?" Lin Feng asked. The Azure Dragon King had entered the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation much earlier than him. Obviously, he had not entered the Wind World first, but another world. Based on the characteristics of the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation, it was most likely that the Wind World was adjacent to the other elemental worlds. The Dark World. Li Qing looked at Lin Feng and pointed. "Head in that direction. You'll reach it in about half a year if you travel at the speed of light. It's a well-defined canyon. You'll find it if you can sense the surging elemental fluctuations of darkness." "Thank you for your guidance, senior," Lin Feng said gratefully. It was really easy to talk to smart people. He did not need to say anything, and the Azure Dragon King had already guessed it. "Senior, have you found a treasure land in the Wind World?" Lin Feng asked. Li Qing's eyes lit up. "Little brother, do you know about it?" Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Then, he pointed behind him. "Go in this direction for about a month, and you'll be able to leave and enter the desert. Then, follow the direction of the mirage to find the palace. After another month, wait until the only mirage palace materializes. That will be where the treasure land is." Li Qing's breathing quickened. To him, this was undoubtedly a great opportunity. He cultivated the Tao of Wind. If he could find a treasure land in the Wind World and obtain treasures, his strength would definitely improve greatly. "Little brother, this favor is too great." Li Qing sighed softly, his expression serious. He had merely pointed the way to another world. However, what Lin Feng pointed him to was a treasure land that everyone coveted. The value was incomparable. "Just take it as returning senior's favor." Lin Feng smiled. Back then, during the battle with the Poison Rose, it was all thanks to the Azure Dragon King's arrival. Although the Azure Dragon King might not have had the intention to save people, he did help Lin Feng in the end. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon King had pointed the way to the Dark World. Lin Feng owed the Azure Dragon King 2 favors. Returning the favor with a treasure land could be considered fulfilling Lin Feng's wish. "Then I'll shamelessly accept it." Li Qing was not a wishy-washy person. He immediately said, "Little brother, you must be careful on your trip to the Dark World. From what I know, the blood-maned Beast King, Tila, and Ci are all looking for the exit of the Dark World. The other experts might be here. The blood-maned Beast King and Tila? Lin Feng let out a soft exclamation. He did not care much about Ci, but the blood-maned Beast King and Tila had to be on guard. They were peak high-level deities, and the blood-maned beast was good at fighting. Coupled with the geographical advantage, they were definitely a difficult opponent. This stupid beast is crazy. Li Qing let out a long sigh. He has been chasing after me since the God-fallen world. Even now, he hasn't stopped for a moment. I almost died under his claws several times. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Senior, did you offend him?" Li Qing shook his head. "I'll admit it if I offend him. I don't know why, but he seems to think that I took the treasure of his blood-maned beast clan. I haven't even seen the supreme blood-maned horn before." "The supreme blood-maned horn?" Lin Feng was slightly stunned. "Didn't he take it? Why would Tila think that the Azure Dragon King took it? Looks like he got it by mistake." Lin Feng thought to himself. Although he did not know what had happened in between, it was obvious that the Azure Dragon King had taken the blame for him. Since he owed the Azure Dragon King, it was only fair that he gave the Azure Dragon King a treasure land. The blood-maned Beast King and Tila. Lin Feng smiled. "Actually, I was also looking for him." "Looking for him for what?" Li Qing did not understand. "To ask him for something." Lin Feng remembered that the supreme blood-maned horn on the blood-maned Beast King and Tila's head contained the Tao of Darkness. Now, he lacked one of the two great Taos of Darkness. If he killed the Azure Dragon King, he would be able to obtain 100,000 great Taos of Darkness. At the same time, he would also be able to solve a problem. In that case, little brother, be careful. Li Qing could not wait any longer. "All right, senior. See you in the 4th round." Lin Feng bade farewell to the Azure Dragon King. "Haha, thank you for your kind words." Chapter 2188. This is the canyon that Senior Azure Dragon King mentioned. In just 3 months, Lin Feng had arrived at the Broken Corridor Canyon. Using the secret technique to travel at twice the speed of light not only saved him 3 months, but also some unnecessary battles. Traveling at twice the speed of light, it was difficult for the exotic beasts to effectively attack or stop him. There were no other experts in the world of wind, so Lin Feng didn't care about exposing his strength. Sure enough, there are fluctuations of dark elemental energy. Lin Feng looked ahead and saw a broken corridor lying in the middle like a giant dragon. The side he was on was full of wind elemental energy, and the other side could already feel dark waves and intense elemental fluctuations. The two sides were clearly separated. The dark side. Lin Feng smiled faintly. His figure flashed, and then he crossed the canyon. To him, whether it was the blood-maned Beast King, Teal, or Thorn, they weren't really that big of a threat. Even if Teal had the geographical advantage, and was as strong as a top-tier god, he also had the geographical advantage. Moreover, the battle with Teal was different from the battle with the guardian beast. Soul attacks were effective. The only ones he was really afraid of were the top-tier gods. The Wudong brothers. Among them, Wutanjia is good at the dark path. Other experts might not know, but Lin Feng knew that before the end of the 3rd reincarnation, the Wudong brothers had entered the 10-direction treasure-gathering formation 1 step ahead of him. They had also passed the test. Although their spatial talent was average, they were top-tier gods after all. Their life level was high, and their performance in the first 2 reincarnations was outstanding. They had accumulated a lot of advantages so they could pass the 3rd reincarnation. As for the other top-tier gods, none of them cultivated the dark path. If he could meet them in the dark side, then he would be really unlucky. In the dark side world, the 2-world abyss. It was pitch black, and there was a huge suction force from the abyss, as if a demon was resting. The natural environment of the abyss was like a ferocious beast with its mouth wide open. Anyone who entered would be swallowed. However, the dense dark energy was something that could not be found anywhere else. This place was obviously unusual. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air resounded, and a miserable figure suddenly scuttled out from the bottom of the two-world abyss. His body was covered in bloodstains, and there were countless wounds of various sizes. His aura was chaotic, and it was Thorn. His black battle clothes were already damaged, and the mask on his face had also fallen off, revealing an evil and ice-cold face. His eyebrows were tightly knitted. Roar! Roar! Angry roars could be heard from the bottom of the two-world abyss, filled with endless anger. Almost! The dagger in Thorn's hand flashed with a cold light and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The pinnacle true treasures in his hands, the universe halos, also returned to normal. So, the treasured land of the dark side is here. The guardian beast's strength has reached the threshold of a top-tier god. Humph! C's face was filled with displeasure. Even though he had the same geographical advantage here, and his strength as a high-level god coupled with his bloodline could even unleash the combat power of a top-tier god, it was still not enough to defeat the guardian beast. The third path of reincarnation was more difficult than he had imagined. If the guardian beast was already so powerful, the strength of the guardian deity at the exit could be imagined. Guardian beasts and guardian gods are made of energy. It's useless to exhaust them or assassinate them. Only by killing them head-on can I pass this path of reincarnation. I have to think of a way to increase my strength or find a formation to increase my strength to another level. Then, I'll be able to fight the guardian deity as an equal. Once I kill him and get the treasure of darkness, I'll have a way to defeat the guardian deity. Thorn's boots tapped on the two-world abyss and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Broken Corridor Canyon. Hua! Lin Feng stepped in. The surrounding energy seemed to have been transferred, and in an instant, it changed from the rich wind element to the dark element. It was bright all over, and the dark demonic patterns were jumping. Awesome! Lin Feng let out a long breath and let go of the frustration in his heart. In the wind side, he was restrained everywhere, and his strength was suppressed by the power of the wind. Even if he couldn't use the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow, his body, strength, and pure blade technique could still unleash the peak strength of a high-level god. Previously, he could kill the three-headed Thunder Serpent, which was enough to prove the power of his blade technique. However, in the wind side, he could only unleash the strength of an ordinary high-level god. It was quite uncomfortable to have his hands and feet tied. Here, he was completely free. Clang! Even Black Viper became active. After absorbing the rich dark element, Black Viper's combat power increased abruptly. It was a mid-level pinnacle true treasure, and now it seemed to be able to unleash the power of a high-level pinnacle true treasure. Even if it was only temporary, there was no doubt that it would increase his combat power. Boundless weight. Lin Feng used his blade technique. It was as if Mount Buzhou was pressing down. The surrounding dark element combined, and the power increased sharply. The terrifying power directly destroyed a small hill in Broken Corridor Canyon, and there was a thunderous sound. Rumble! Beyond the limit of a high-level god. Lin Feng put away his blade, very satisfied. Here, he could already unleash the combat power beyond the limit of a high-level god, comparable to the threshold of a top-level god. Although he might not be as good as Wu Tongyao, who also cultivated the path of darkness, he could compete with blood-maned Beast King and Tila. As for Thorn, the way he looked at me was very fierce, as if there was endless hatred in his eyes. Plus, there's only one exit in the dark side. If I bump into him, he'll try to kill me. I have to be careful. Lin Feng shivered inwardly. Although Thorn's strength was not as good as blood-maned Beast King and Tila, he could not be underestimated. He was the strongest assassin in the Origin Awakened continent, and the people he wanted to kill had all died on the road to heaven. Here, he should be able to unleash the power of a high-level god, and he was good at sneak attacks and assassinations. He might be a bigger threat to him than blood-maned Beast King Antila. But if he really bumped into him, it's hard to say who's unlucky. The current Lin Feng was very confident in his own strength. On the Origin Awaken list, except for the strongest Yen Fagia, he was not afraid of anyone. Tila is not here. Lin Feng easily harvested the lives of 2 exotic beasts and sped out of Broken Corridor Canyon. He learned from the Azure Dragon King that blood-maned Beast King and Tila had chased him all the way to Broken Corridor Canyon and then stopped. He thought that blood-maned Beast King and Tila might still be lying in ambush here, but Tila was not stupid and knew that it was useless. Compared to Thorn, Lin Feng wanted to find blood-maned Beast King and Tila more. The refinement of the 4th Supreme Blood-maned Horn was almost complete, and he needed the 5th Supreme Blood-maned Horn, which was also the most important one. The Supreme Blood-maned Horn that contained the Path of Darkness. It just so happened that blood-maned Beast King and Tila were the ones. The 100,000 origin realm of the Path of Darkness was not only related to the final move of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, but also related to the strongest ability of the pinnacle true treasure Prison Devil Hall, Prison Devil Land. It could be said that this was the key to increasing his battle strength. Finding blood-maned Beast King and Tila was no less important than finding the Gathering Formation and Treasure Land. Chapter 2189. Chi. After leaving the Broken Corridor Canyon, Lin Feng still felt as if he was walking on flat ground. After traveling in the Wind World, he was already very familiar with the Elemental World. This was a large array, so there were no natural dangers. All the dangers came from the array itself, beasts of heaven and earth, guardian beasts and guardian gods. Therefore, as long as one had enough strength, one could walk in the 10-directional treasure-gathering array as if it was flat ground. Of course, one had to be wary of the human heart. Searching for the gathering array completely depends on chance, which is luck. If one touches the key of the array world, one can find it. If one is unlucky, one can't find it even after an era. Therefore, there is no need to deliberately search for the gathering array. If one is fated to find it, one can find it. If not, it doesn't matter. Lin Feng didn't have much hope for the gathering array. His luck had always been bad. In comparison, he trusted his strength more. Search for the blood-maned Beast King Tisa and the Treasure Land. The former could be judged according to the surrounding battle situation, but whether it was the blood-maned Beast King or Tisa, he didn't know. As for the latter, according to the rules of the Wind World, the location of the Treasure Land was obvious. There must be a strange phenomenon. For example, in the Wind World, there were signs of a mirage. If one wanted to search for the Treasure Land, one could search the entire world. There would definitely be gains. Here, let's try to use elemental energy to sense it. Lin Feng calmed down. His 6th sense didn't respond. Perhaps he was still quite far from the Treasure Land. The elemental energy could clearly distinguish which side was higher. It was just a little higher. If one wasn't proficient in the Tao of Darkness and had extremely high attainments, one wouldn't be able to sense it at all. For example, the Wind World was like this. Even if one tried their best, it was useless because their attainments in the Wind World were too weak. Over there. Lin Feng moved quickly. Just a little higher. Obviously, it was the center of the Dark World. Because the center was at the center of the array, the concentration of the array heart was the strongest. Secondly, the surrounding dark elements were the densest. Therefore, the dark elements stayed temporarily for the longest time, causing a little bit of energy height, like a wrinkle. Although the Treasure Land wasn't necessarily at the center of the array. At least, there would be more opportunities than other places. The journey was long. There was no light or sun in the darkness. It was completely pitch black. No matter where one was, it was the same. Many places were mixed with dark matter, making it difficult to advance. For experts who were not proficient in the Path of Darkness, this place was like hell. However, for Lin Feng it was nothing. On the contrary, it made him feel extremely comfortable. It would be great if we could find the condensation array. Lin Feng still hoped that he could find the dark side energy gathering array. The dark elemental energy here was so outstanding that he would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Not to mention, the gathering array itself had special effects. However, according to the information he knew, the formation required special conditions. As for the specific conditions, no one knew. With my current strength, I should be able to compete with the guardian beasts, but I still can't defeat the guardian gods. Lin Feng raised his saber and slashed down, and the few strange beasts along the way disappeared in an instant. Another 2 beasts fell in the blink of an eye. These 2 are already high-level gods. I might be one step closer to the treasure land. Lin Feng smiled. The rules of the Windside world could be used as a reference. The strange beasts would also be attracted to the treasure land, especially when they were close to the treasure land. In other words, they would be stronger. Therefore, the strength and number of strange beasts were like guiding lights in navigation, indicating the direction. 1 year later. We're here. Lin Feng stood in front of an abyss and looked at the blocked space. It was full of dark matter energy, and the cracks emitted a terrifying dark aura like a dense beehive. If I'm not wrong, this is where the treasure land is. Lin Feng looked at the blocked space in front of him. His sixth sense told him that there must be something in front of him, and it was inside this abyss. Whoosh! Lin Feng moved like lightning and didn't stop. There was no natural barrier, so he was fearless. Only the guardian beasts of the treasure land could threaten him. Everything else was like a breeze that he didn't care about at all. Beside the two-world abyss, in the abyss. This was the only way to enter the two-world abyss. The beehive-like land of dark matter was the habitat of countless strange beasts. However, at this moment, there was a human expert entrenched in one of them. Thorn. His whole body was emitting a pitch-black light, covered by black crystal elements. The universe halos on his hands were dark and shiny, containing the ultimate power of a pinnacle true treasure. Thorn's aura was very special. Although the strange beasts around him were close, none of them attacked him. Instead, they treated him as one of them. It was very strange. Talent, ability, copy. There were very few who knew Thorn's secret. Only Yen Fagia, Poison Rose, and a few others. The others who knew were all dead. Thorn could copy the aura of any life form, including plants, demons, monsters, and even metal life forms. This unique ability was one of the main reasons why Thorn became the strongest killer on the Origin Awakening list. Right now, Thorn was copying the aura of the strange beast. Strange beasts didn't have intelligence. They were only made of energy and derived from the power of the array. They would automatically attack any non-energy life forms. Therefore, although they could see Thorn, they wouldn't attack him. Hidden in a dark mass of strange beasts, they cultivated in seclusion. Although they couldn't find the gathering formation, the dark side was still a rare and precious place to cultivate for martial artists of the dark path. Especially Thorn, who had accumulated power for a long time. He had just become a mid-level god, and his body had endless potential. It was a bit difficult for him to reach the limit from a high-level god, but it wasn't difficult to increase his strength to a normal high-level god. He just needed to increase his strength and fill the gap created by his potential step by step. Oh! Thorn, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. He was slightly surprised. Then his eyes turned cold and murderous. A familiar aura came. Demonic Blade King Lin Feng? Thorn smiled faintly. The dagger in his hand flashed, and the corner of his mouth curved coldly. There was hatred in his eyes. Poison Rose was injured by Lin Feng. If not for the heaven and earth halos, if not for his timely rescue, Poison Rose would have perished and died an unnatural death. You hurt my woman. Then pay with your life. Thorn stood up. His cold aura spread. The pinnacle true treasure in his hand was already filled with murderous intent. He had promised Poison Rose that he would avenge her. There was nothing he couldn't do when he promised. This time was no exception. You sent yourself to me. It has nothing to do with me. Thorn hid in the darkness. His aura assimilated with the strange beasts, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chapter 2190. At the entrance of the beehive. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Feng used 5 transformation stacked shadows. The black dragon in his hand seemed to have a big appetite as it devoured the beasts one after another. Hexagonal entrances formed a 3-dimensional shape. The entire entrance of the beehive was filled with thick dark matter, like a maze. Martial artists with poor attainments in the path of dark matter and the path of darkness would easily get lost here. But for Lin Feng, it was nothing. It's much simpler than the black forbidden land in the blood python lair. A world existed within a formation. Naturally, there wouldn't be any formation within a formation. This was a natural formation. It was an ordinary region of darkness formed by dark matter and the Tao of darkness. The real difficulty was that there were countless beasts living at the entrance of the beehive. The dark energy here is much more refined than outside, so it's easier for the beasts to form. Lin Feng soon understood the reason. Although the beasts in this world were living beings, they were energy beings. They would naturally be born when pure energy was gathered. Every entrance of the beehive was condensed by the path of dark matter, so the energy was pure and easy to form. Swoosh. Lin Feng's figure changed, and he easily opened a path. He could easily kill the beasts in the wind, so there was no need to mention this place. Although there were many beasts, they could only delay him for a little longer. It seems that the treasure is inside. Lin Feng vaguely felt the aura of a treasure. His sixth sense played a great role in the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation. The way out appeared clearly in his mind, and Lin Feng quickly approached the treasure. Suddenly, His heart inexplicably thumped, and he vaguely felt a sense of danger. However, he only sensed a group of beasts around him. There was nothing special. Lin Feng frowned slightly. It seems that someone is secretly spying on me. The reaction of the sixth sense. Is it from the treasure? Could it be a top god that I can't sense? Lin Feng knew his ability well. His life level and strength were his biggest weaknesses. Those who could enter the 4th reincarnation were all the most outstanding experts in the 100 reincarnations of the wandering planet. He was at the bottom of the list in terms of strength and combat power. It was better to be safe than sorry. Swoosh. Chi. With a raise of his hand, Lin Feng did not give the beasts any chance to get close to him. He slowed down and controlled the prison demon hall. He did not enter it but used it as a shield in case of an emergency. Even though it did not have any special abilities, as a pinnacle true treasure and a palace-type true treasure at that, the defense of Prison Fiend Palace was pretty good. Even a top-tier god spirit might not be able to break through it with a full power attack. In this regard, even the outstanding true treasure Moxo boat and the Wings of Warmth paled in comparison. The difference of one level was like the difference between heaven and earth. The current Mo Shui boat could at most be used as a controlling attack treasure. It was hard for it to be useful in defense. After all, it wasn't particularly outstanding among the outstanding true treasures. The Wings of Warmth was slightly better. After all, it was a top-notch outstanding true treasure, close to the pinnacle true treasure grade. The exit is up ahead. Lin Feng became even more cautious. The dark matter energy and dark elements weakened and separated, replaced by a brand new environment. Just by looking at it, one could see a faint dark light like the light of hell. Numerous cosmos beasts of the heavens and the earth instantly surged out from the surroundings like mantises trying to stop a chariot, and they carried out the final useless obstruction. Lin Feng raised his hand and slashed down. A halo fell and forced all the beasts to retreat. In the next instant, another wave of beasts attacked. There was no end to them. There are so many of them. The moment Lin Feng killed them quickly, The 5 changes stacked shadows turned into 2 afterimages. His original body had already dashed out of the exit. The surrounding beasts were all dumbfounded. Only one of them changed direction at the same time. Oh! Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. In an instant, a terrifying dark power descended. 2 pitch-black shackles appeared from the extra-dimensional space and shackled his hands. There was no way for him to dodge at all. The pitch-black light condensed into a terrifying light. It had a powerful aura. It was a pinnacle true treasure. At the same time, the only beast following him suddenly changed its appearance. Its black battle armor blended into the darkness, and 2 sharp daggers shone with cold light. It was extremely fast. Chi. It went straight for the throat. What a terrifying sneak attack! Although Lin Feng's reaction was already very fast, he was still restrained. The key to a sneak attack was the element of surprise. Although he had a 6th sense and reacted at the fastest speed, the opponent was so strong that he couldn't block it. It was difficult for him to block 2 attacks with Prison Fiend Palace, a control-type pinnacle true treasure. Thorn. The moment Lin Feng was restrained, the black-clothed, masked face appeared in his mind. He was the only one who could play assassination to such perfection and possess such valiant strength. He was indeed worthy of his reputation. The moment he attacked, he restricted the close combat ability that he was good at. But he had missed one thing. Soul Heart Arrow, 3rd level. Facing Thorn's sneak attack at such a close distance and with his hands shackled, it was difficult for him to change his blade technique. However, the soul attack was fast, and it only took a thought. The moment Prison Fiend Palace blocked, the soul attack exploded. Boom! Thorn, who was determined to win, opened his eyes wide. His head was like thunder. Although his willpower was very strong, he didn't expect the attack to be so close. Although Thorn's combat power was increased by the geographical advantage and barely reached the threshold of top-tier god spirits, his own power was just a high-level god spirit. His soul and willpower were very strong, but they were only comparable to high-level ultimate special life forms. However, Lin Feng's 3rd level attack of Soul Heart Arrow could kill high-level ultimate special life forms. The top 3 high-level special life forms in God Fallen World, the 3-headed Thunder Serpent, died under this attack. Ah! Even though Thorn's willpower was amazing, he couldn't help but scream. His soul felt like it was being torn apart. The pain was shocking. He clenched his teeth, and the blood vessels in his body expanded. Thorn's blood vessels exploded instantly, and his whole body seemed to be burning. It was a terrifying attack. With his remaining willpower, he controlled the dagger forcefully and stabbed toward Lin Feng's throat at lightning speed. Go to hell! Thorn was in a frenzy. However, he was facing Lin Feng, who was as still as a lake. You're really strong, Lin Feng said softly. He could completely feel Thorn's strong willpower. Under such circumstances, he could still continue to attack fatally. For a powerhouse who had just become a high-level god spirit, he was already doing very well. No wonder he was the strongest assassin in Origin Awakened Continent. Unfortunately, he found the wrong person to assassinate this time. If one walked on the edge of a blade too often, one day they would be cut by it or even killed. Soul Heart Arrow, 3rd level. Lin Feng launched another soul attack. It was concise and direct, without any hesitation. The pure soul power turned into a perfect arrow and pierced through Thorn's soul. This time, Thorn couldn't block it. Bang! Thorn's eyes lost focus. He clenched the dagger in his hand tightly and fell from the void with a loud crash. He was unwilling to die. Chapter 2191. Puff, puff. The black shackles on Lin Feng's hands opened automatically. Without the owner's control, they had become ownerless items. Space, a dark-type pinnacle true treasure. Lin Feng put away the black shackles, very satisfied. If Thorn could use it with his cultivation, then he could use it with his own cultivation. Now, he only had two pinnacle true treasures, Black Viper and Prison Devil Hall. The more, the better. What a pity! Lin Feng looked at Thorn, who had fallen into the endless darkness. Although he didn't know what kind of deep hatred he had with him, it was destined to be a life-and-death competition here. There was only one exit on the dark side. In order to enter the fourth reincarnation, both sides had to give it their all. He wouldn't be Thorn's first target. Similarly, Thorn wouldn't be the first to want to kill him. The 10-direction treasure-gathering array was a place above strength. To get out of the array, one needed to be strong. Simulated aura. No wonder he could become the strongest killer. Lin Feng flipped through Thorn's belongings. They were all outstanding true treasures. There were also the leader's secret order and keepsakes of the strongest killer organization, Thorn. Among the pinnacle true treasures, only this pair of black shackles was useful. Although the other outstanding true treasures were useful to him, they weren't very useful. He didn't need to waste time and energy on them. There are also some heaven and earth fruits from the dark side. It saved me a lot of effort. Lin Feng smiled. Thorn had the same thoughts as him. Born in the Origin Awakened continent, his body wasn't innate. It couldn't be compared to special life forms. It needed to be strengthened. In the Origin Awakened continent, these heaven and earth fruits were precious. Only in the 10-direction treasure-gathering array, an ancient array that only opened 100 reincarnations, could one obtain so many. Furthermore, every single one of them was extremely precious. Thorn had collected quite a lot of heaven and earth fruit. Obviously, he had searched for a long time in the dark side to obtain such a harvest. He had made a wedding dress for himself. This is... Lin Feng quickly took out a necklace and a red silk robe. Then, he took out a painting, which fell into his hands. A beautiful young girl could be clearly seen in the painting, and it was as if she was alive. On the beautiful girl's neck, which was as white as a swan's, hung the necklace in his hand. It wasn't particularly expensive. She was wearing this red silk dress. It was very familiar. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw every frown and smile of the beautiful girl in the painting. I never thought that Origin Awakened continent's strongest assassin would actually be an infatuated man. The mystery in Lin Feng's heart had been solved and vanished like smoke in thin air. This beautiful young lady was Poison Rose when she was young. She also liked the color red and had the same valiant and formidable bearing. It was just that the current Poison Rose was more mature. However, her expression and figure did not change much. It was easy to recognize him at a glance. Thorn had a soft spot for poisonous roses. His hatred towards her naturally came from the Poison Rose. What men pursue is nothing more than power, strength, and women. Lin Feng felt sorry for Thorn. If it weren't for Poison Rose, perhaps Thorn wouldn't have attacked him, and he wouldn't have died here. He had no enmity with him, and they were both from Origin Awakened continent, so he naturally wouldn't be ruthless. However, there was no turning back now. Everything began and ended as if it was destined. There was nothing to be sad about, and even less to feel guilty. Lin Feng only sighed. A hero of a generation actually died because of a woman. If he didn't have such a strong soul attack like the Kuan Ling heart arrow, the one who would die today would most likely be him. Thorn's strength and assassination methods were top-notch. He was extremely good at using his advantages. Hua! Lin Feng's figure flashed and landed on a long abyss. The dense element of darkness was like a river of the underworld, filled with the aura of death. In front of him, there was a huge stone pillar with 3 ancient words clearly imprinted on it, 2-world abyss. Every word seemed to be dyed with blood, and the aura was violent and powerful. Seems like it's here. Lin Feng looked down. It was pitch black, and he couldn't see the bottom. He could faintly hear the roar of beasts and feel the surging aura of darkness. The treasure was at the bottom of the 2-world abyss, but he didn't know what it was. Lin Feng was very curious. Recover my soul power first. During the battle with Thorn, He had used the Kuan Ling heart arrow twice. Although the second time didn't consume 30% of his soul power, it still consumed 22% of his soul power. It was enough to show how strong Thorn's will was. After all, he had only just become a high-level god. If he was at the limit of high-level god, the Kuan Ling heart arrow wouldn't be able to kill him. One after another, the inner cores of the Kuan spirit race were swallowed into Lin Feng's stomach. Lin Feng refined them without hesitation. The pure soul energy contained in the inner cores was extremely rare in this world. Even in the 10-directional treasure-gathering array, they were hard to find. The recovery of soul power was quite slow. Even if he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone, it wouldn't be fast. It was a race against time, and he wasn't afraid of wasting it. In any case, he had already cultivated the enlightened spirit heart arrow to its peak. Without any secret techniques, it would be too difficult to advance from the 3rd level to the 4th level just by relying on his own comprehension. It was much more difficult than his saber technique. When the Kuan Ling inner cores are exhausted, I probably won't need to use the Kuan Ling heart arrow anymore. Lin Feng looked at the bottom of the two-world abyss and took a deep breath. He was a little excited and couldn't wait. Dealing with the guardian spiritual beasts was different from dealing with other experts. They were energy life forms, so they couldn't be hurt by the Kuan Ling heart arrow. Soul attacks were completely useless. He might not be able to defeat them with saber techniques alone. Although he had the geographical advantage, the guardian spiritual beasts also had the geographical advantage. As long as the difference in strength isn't too far, I can pass it 3 to 7 times. Moreover, the 4th blood centipede horn is almost finished. The art of assassination can increase the speed and power of my attack. With the improvement of my life level, my battle strength will increase a little. Slowly accumulate and with great accumulation. Right now, Lin Feng was accumulating every minute increase in his strength. Over and over again, the accumulation was quite impressive. 100,000 origin realm was far beyond the peak. Even if he didn't cultivate any secret techniques, he could fuse 100,000 origin realm into his attack. However, his life level and strength were still too weak. It was difficult for him to use all 100,000 origin realm. And the realm itself also needed the support of secret technique. As long as my life level crosses that threshold, my battle strength will have a huge leap. Lin Feng seized the time to recover his soul power. Although he couldn't use the Kuan Ling heart arrow against the guardian spiritual beasts, soul power was closely related to battle strength. After dozens of days of seclusion, his soul power had recovered. His battle strength had reached the peak. It's time to meet him. I wonder who is stronger, compared to the guardian spiritual beasts of the wind side? Lin Feng stood up and looked at the bottomless two-world abyss. Chapter 2192. The two-world abyss was like a bottomless hole with the dense dark fog spreading. Lin Feng went straight to the deepest part of the two-world abyss like a waterfall. Violent beast roars filled his ears, filled with extreme negative energy. The killing intent could be sensed from far away. Every guardian spiritual beast has different characteristics because of the different energy they are composed of. Passing through the dark fog, Lin Feng felt like he was walking on flat ground. To him, who was proficient in the origin realm of darkness, he was like a fish in water compared to the wind realm. He could use his full strength here. The guardian of wind spirit beast is carefree and unrestrained like the wind. The guardian of darkness is violent and ferocious with a strong killing intent. Lin Feng smiled. The roars of the guardian of darkness came again, as if it was afraid that others would not know its location. Even if they were not proficient in the great Tao of darkness, they could easily find it. The place of the treasure was open to the public. As long as they searched the complete world carefully, they would definitely find the place of the treasure. According to the Azure Dragon King, Thorn and blood-maned Beast King Tila are in the world of darkness. If Thorn can find the place of the treasure, Blood-maned beast King Tila should be able to find it too. But he doesn't seem to be here. Lin Feng could not sense any other auras. Moreover, blood-maned beast King Tila was stronger than Thorn. They were competitors. How could they allow others to sleep beside them? The two-world abyss was only so big. With blood-maned beast King Tila here, Thorn would definitely not stay here. It should be that the treasure in the world of darkness is useless to blood-maned beast King Tila, so he gave it up directly. The goal is more direct. Focus on finding the only exit. Because there was only one exit, and it was different from the place of the treasure. Finding it required patience and luck, so it would take a lot of time. Since there was only one exit, they naturally had to compete for it. Blood-maned beast King Tila gave up some other things. After all, he was a beast and not a special life form. Treasures were not very useful to him. Apart from blood-maned beast King Tila, the top god Wu Tongya probably has the same idea. Or maybe he doesn't care about treasures. For experts like Wu Tongya, rather than wasting time looking for treasures, it was better to enter the fourth reincarnation as soon as possible. The other top gods were probably thinking the same thing. The 10 directional treasures gathering array was mostly set up for weak powerhouses, giving them more chances to advance. For example, almost there. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Through the black fog, he could faintly see a silver light flickering. It was magnified bit by bit, as if the clouds were parted. Gradually, a colossus appeared. It was majestic and magnificent. Silver crystals adorned the entire black craggy ancient palace, making it look like a precipitous mountain. An ear-splitting roar resounded. It was a provocation from the guardian beast. It carried a trace of arrogance and disdain as it looked down on everything. Killing intent spread out from the ancient palace along with the black haze and covered the entire area. Thud! Lin Feng stood in front of the ancient temple, staring at the jagged stones in front of him. The structure was like a precipitous mountain peak. He could feel the surging killing intent and the boundless darkness. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he entered without hesitation. Since he was here, there was no retreat. He was not even afraid of the guardian spirit beast of the wind world. He would not be afraid of the guardian spirit beast of the dark world. This was also his home ground. After a while, Lin Feng's body flashed. His aura fluctuated. There were many wounds on his body, but they were not serious. He took out a fruit of heaven and earth and stuffed it into his mouth. Instantly, the energy of heaven and earth covered his body. Lin Feng sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. It was a fierce battle. In the battle with the spirit beast of the wind, he was suppressed and at a complete disadvantage. But in the battle with the spirit beast of the dark, he met his match. Although he lost, it was a glorious defeat. He was just a little bit away. It's about what I expected. Lin Feng did not intend to pass in one try. He could not use the third level of the Kuan-Ling Heart Arrow here. His current strongest attack was limited, and his combat power was naturally weakened. Relying on his close combat power, even with the help of the geographical advantage, exceeded the limit of high-level gods, but he was still a little bit away from the threshold of a top-level god. The guardian spirit beast of the dark had reached the threshold of a top-level god. It was good enough that he could be on par with it. If he could use the third level of the Kuan-Ling Heart Arrow, he would have defeated it. Knife technique, realm, body, and even treasures. I can win if I improve any of them. Lin Feng knew that it was not difficult, but it would be difficult to defeat the guardian spirit. The guardian spirit beast's strength was only 30% of the guardian spirit's strength. In other words, the guardian spirit of the dark world was about the strength of a normal top-level god. At most, in 10 years, the path of assassination will be able to condense the all of law. Lin Feng was not worried. He was about to complete the refinement of his fourth blood-sucking horn. The path of assassination could increase the speed and power of his attack. Coupled with the improvement of his life level, his combat power would increase slightly. Just this improvement would be enough to help him defeat the guardian spirit beast. Therefore, his current goal was the guardian spirit. It was just that the danger was a little high. After all, in addition to the exit of the dark world and the guardian spirit itself, he still had to face Wu Tongya, the blood-sucking beast king, and Tila. The difficulty was not ordinary. It was much crueler than the wind world. In the wind world, not only did he not have the geographical advantage, but his combat power was also weakened because of the density of the wind energy. Even if his combat power could be improved, he still could not defeat the guardian spirit beast, let alone the guardian spirit. I'll take it one step at a time. Lin Feng had no other choice at the moment. His strength was limited, and he was restrained everywhere. I'll first complete the 100,000 origin realm comprehension of the fourth path of darkness and obtain the treasure of the dark world. Then I'll think about other things. In the dark world, 18 islands were connected. Each island was connected to 2 other islands by chains as thick as mountains. They shone with a cold, crystalline light. Below the islands were black flames that seemed to be able to burn souls. It's here. It must be here. A 1-meter-tall, dwarf-like little guy flickered through the chain of islands. His ocean-blue skin was reflected by the black flames, as if the sea was burning. He was a top-level god, a special life form, Wu Tongya. Haha, the heavens love me. The dark world is mine, Wu Tongya. Wu Tongya chuckled. He was in a very good mood. Although he still had not found a way to leave, he was confident. As for other experts, even if they found this place, only death awaited them. Competing with him, death awaited them. Chapter 2193. After 5 years of quiet cultivation, his assassination Dao's nomological all was close to mastery. Lin Feng practiced his saber while skillfully forming the nomological all. It was not his first time, so it was too easy for Lin Feng. He had a ready-made model, so he just had to follow it and condense it along the blood-devouring horn. On the other hand, the saber technique required more thought. The 5th move of the Myriad Obscurity Heavenly Saber, Myriad Obscurity. Heavy slash, a saber stream. In terms of attack speed, it was almost comparable to Ashes. In terms of power, it was even more terrifying than Boundless Weight. However, it was not easy to comprehend. Lin Feng had spent a lot of effort to comprehend and guide the saber technique back then. Not to mention, what he needed to comprehend now was the true essence of the saber technique. It was the combination of the path of light and the path of assassination. He was not good at these 2 paths and did not use them often, so it was not easy. However, the 5th move of the Myriad Obscurity Heavenly Saber had to be cultivated. Firstly, it was powerful. Secondly, if he could not master the first 5 moves, the 6th move would be even more out of reach. Although he had no clue, he could still deduce a lot based on his understanding of the saber technique from the guidance. Moreover, he needed to familiarize himself with the saber technique. As for comprehension, he would have to wait until his assassination Dao reached 100,000 origins. By then, comprehension would be much easier. Suddenly, rumble, rumble. The earth trembled, and the entire dual-world abyss seemed to be about to collapse. The guardian spirit beast's roar was extremely uneasy. The roar was like thunder, and the energy at the bottom of the abyss was dissipating. This is? Lin Feng was slightly stunned and frowned. He sheathed his saber and stood there, sensing the changes in the surrounding environment. The activity of the dark elemental energy weakened a lot, and the energy dissipated a lot. He seemed to sense something in his mind. It was a black door opening, and a blurry figure was stepping in. Wu Tongya. Lin Feng recognized him at a glance. All the experts in the reincarnation of destiny had their own characteristic. Wu Tongya's was the most obvious. He was only 1 meter tall and looked like a dwarf. Coupled with his indigo skin, he could recognize him at a glance even if he had never seen him before. As Wu Tongya entered, the black door closed and disappeared. Rumble. Immediately after, the 18 dark islands sank, and black flames appeared, burning the entire world to ashes. The vision in his mind slowly dimmed and disappeared. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The exit to the world of darkness had bin found. Moreover, the experts they found were strong enough to pass through easily. Wu Tongyao was a top-tier deity. In other words, he was at least a top-tier deity. Coupled with the geographical advantage, defeating the guardian deity of the dark world was a piece of cake. A little bit of strength, a little bit of opportunity. It can't be helped. Lin Feng didn't regret it. Even if he did, it would be impossible for him to defeat the guardian deity. In addition, his performance in the second round was poor, and he had just entered the third round. Moreover, he was the first to enter the world of wind. Compared to the other experts, he had a lot less time. He was already very satisfied that he was able to find the dark world and the place where the treasures were hidden in such a short time. At least there are still gathering formations and treasure lands. Lin Feng shook the black dragon in his hand. He felt the dark energy weaken, but it didn't matter. After all, he was not the only one who was weakened. The guardian deity was also weakened. I have to hurry up and deal with the guardian deity and head to the next world. Lin Feng's fighting spirit didn't diminish. He was determined to get the treasures of the dark world. As for gathering formations, things that relied on opportunities relied too much on luck. There was no need to waste time on them. Besides, he didn't know if the gathering formations had been found. In the 6th year, the All of Law was completed. In the 7th year, the All of Law was condensed. The path of assassination was finally formed, and he stepped into a new realm. For Lin Feng, his combat strength had significantly improved in all aspects. Although the dark energy had weakened a lot, his combat strength had increased. Lin Feng was confident that he could defeat the guardian deity of darkness. However, he hesitated. What will happen if I don't defeat the guardian deity? Lin Feng suddenly had a thought. Since the treasure land was already in his bag, it didn't matter when he took it. The key was whether he could get the most out of it. In the dark world, Wu Tongya had left and Thorn had been killed by him. Only the blood-maned beast king Antila were left. With his current strength, he might be able to fight them. The blood-maned beast king Antila should have the strength to defeat the guardian deity of the exit, but I still don't. However, my close combat ability has improved a lot. If I fight against the blood-maned beast king Antila, and I can use the 3rd level of the Kuan-Ling Heart Arrow, it's still unknown who will win. Without fighting, it was hard to tell who was stronger. Previously, he was afraid because of Wu Tongya. Even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be his opponent. However, the blood-maned beast king and Tila were different. His strength was within his reach. Most importantly, he had something that he desperately needed: the supreme blood-maned horn. Right now, he only lacked 2 supreme blood-maned horns. He couldn't get one of them, but he could get the supreme blood-maned horn of the Path of Darkness. This was because the blood-maned beast king and Tila happened to be of the dark attribute. Being proficient in the Path of Darkness was very important to him. If he missed this opportunity, he wouldn't be able to find it again. Not only did his pinnacle treasure, the Prison Devil Hall, need the Path of Darkness to trigger its ultimate ability, the last move of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade also needed the Path of Darkness. The Path of Darkness was the foundation of the 6 paths of darkness, just like the holy light path of the 6 paths of light. If I were the blood-maned beast king and the guardian deity of the exit has been defeated, there are only 2 possibilities. One is to continue to look for the exit in the other worlds, but he should know his own strength. Even if the guardians of the other worlds found him, they wouldn't be his match. Even the weakest force in heaven and earth worlds might not be able to pass with his strength at the peak of the high-level god level. Lin Feng thought. According to his estimation, Even the weakest force and heaven and earth world's guardians should be at the peak of the high-level God level, or even higher. After all, the strength of the guardian deity in the 10-direction treasure-gathering array couldn't be too different. If that's the case, the blood-maned beast King Tila should choose to continue to stay here to improve his strength and see if he can find the treasure-gathering array to improve his strength and become a top-level god. Of course, it's also possible that he'll fight directly and go to the force and heaven and earth worlds. After all, there's only one spot. First come, first serve. Both possibilities were about 50%. Lin Feng was very clear. After all, he wasn't the blood-maned beast King Tila and didn't have much contact with him. He couldn't guess what he would choose. However, he knew his own situation. Compared to the blood-maned beast King Tila, his current situation wasn't much better. He had already lost the Dark World slot, and his only hope was the Light World slot. And his current strength was still not the guardian deity's match. Let's wait for him for a while. Lin Feng still wanted to get the supreme blood-maned beast King Tila's horn. After all, there weren't many opportunities like this. Chapter 2194. In the World of Darkness. Damn it! Damn it! I can't believe this shorty found it first. Blood-maned beast King gritted his teeth in anger. He had been to those 18 islands before, but he didn't find anything strange. He regretted missing it. However, he also knew that in terms of intelligence, he was indeed lacking compared to the special lifeform Wu Tongya. Moreover, his strength was also slightly inferior to his. Although he was angry about losing, blood-maned beast King accepted the fact. Dig up the treasure and go somewhere else. Although he failed, blood-maned beast King didn't give up. Lin Feng thought too highly of him. In fact, blood-maned beast King didn't even know what the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation was. He wasn't a special life form from the God-fallen world, nor was he an expert from the origin-awakened continent. He didn't have the means to obtain information about the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation. The only thing he could do was to barge in. He could barge in with his own strength and try his luck to carve out a path. Blood-maned beast King of the two-world abyss naturally knew where the treasure was. However, he was a beast and relied on his own strength to fight. Treasures were useless to him, so he ignored them. After all, competing with Wu Tongyao was a race against time. Even if they encountered a gathering formation, the blood mammoth beast King Tila might not enter, let alone a treasure ground. However, it was different now. He had a lot of time. Damn shorty. So what if you enter the fourth reincarnation? You'll just be eliminated later. Blood-maned beast King roared and disappeared into the darkness. Two-world abyss. Lin Feng began to refine the god spirit light rhinoceros horn. Of the 6 paths of light, only the last path was left, the holy light path. Like the path of darkness, the path of light was also necessary to cultivate the 6th move of the myriad obscuring heavenly blade. Now that he had finished refining the supreme blood-maned horn, he had to seize the time to refine the god spirit light rhinoceros horn. He also honed his saber moves and seized every minute to improve his strength. Lin Feng knew that he couldn't even pass the guardian deity's test, let alone the other powerhouses. The probability of entering the 4th path of reincarnation was actually not high, but increasing one's strength was a necessary path. Any time was the right thing to do. Would blood-maned beast King and Tila come? Lin Feng didn't know. Even if they did come, they might not be able to kill him. Thus, he did not care too much about it and did everything he could. It would be good if he succeeded, but if he didn't, it wouldn't harm his vitality either. When the blood-maned beast King and Tila still hadn't shown up, the blood-maned beast King killed the guardian spirit beast and left with the treasure. To Lin Feng, the guardian spirit beast was nothing more than a lamb in a cage waiting to be slaughtered. Even the treasures were placed in the cage, as if they were already in his pocket. Now that the only spot for the dark side had been lost, the elemental energy of the dark side had been greatly reduced. It was easy to distinguish between the dark side, and the other experts would not come. Only he, the blood-maned Beast King, and Tira were competing. Who was stronger? Lin Feng wanted to know, and even more, he wanted to get blood-maned Beast King's supreme blood-mane horn. 33rd year. While pondering the mystery of the Thousand Annihilation Saber technique, Lin Feng's heart suddenly moved. The black saber lifted upward and paused for a moment. A pitch-black light flashed. Lin Feng looked up at the sky and saw an aura descending rapidly. "You're finally here." The aura of an ultimate high-level god made Lin Feng clench the black saber even tighter. His fighting spirit was raging. Once, blood-maned Beast King, Tila, was a tall mountain that he could only look up to but could not reach. But now, he was qualified to challenge him. Boom! Lin Feng stepped on the dark ground and shot out like an arrow, aiming at blood-maned Beast King. To deal with blood-maned Beast King, who was stronger than him, a sneak attack would often result in defeat. It was better to catch him off guard. The saber light was sharp. Lin Feng's fighting strength was at its peak. After 33 years of honing his saber technique, although the Thousand Annihilation Saber was still a short distance away from the initial level, his mastery of the Thousand Annihilation Heavenly Saber was undoubtedly more profound. The first 4 moves were executed as he wished. Boundless Heavy followed by Tears of Chaos directly attacked. Boom! Boom! Roar! Blood-maned Beast King glared at Lin Feng. His aura instantly became violent because he had sensed the aura of the Supreme Blood-Mane Horn from Lin Feng. This damn human had refined the Supreme Blood-Mane Horn. How infuriating! Blood-maned Beast King's black saber collided with Lin Feng's saber. Blood-maned Beast King's expression suddenly changed. The terrifying impact directly pushed him back. The human's strength was quite strong. He knew how strong he was from the moment they exchanged blows. Bang! Blood-maned Beast King's blood burned fiercely. Blood-maned Beast King's scales stood up, showing a blood-red color. His abilities in all aspects increased sharply. Human, go to hell! Blood-maned Beast King was furious. Blood-maned Beast King's body was not only strong, but his attack speed was also extremely fast. He was more than 1 level stronger than T1. He fully displayed the strength of a high-level god. The Supreme Blood-Mane Horn shone. Blood-maned Beast King's battle power here was comparable to that of a top-tier god. However, today's Lin Feng was not easy to deal with. He instantly performed 5 changes layered shadows. The dark demon patterns on his body were extremely bright. His pinnacle true treasure, Black Saber, had the advantage of a weapon. He fought with blood-maned Beast King's Black Saber in close combat. When they met, neither of them gave in. Pung! 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 Suddenly, a fierce battle broke out under the dual world abyss. Go to hell! Blood-maned Beast King's Black Saber hated this human who had refined the Supreme Blood-Mane Horn to the bone. He knew that this human might be the real culprit, and Lin Feng desperately desired blood-maned Beast King's Supreme Blood-Mane Horn. It was destined to be a fight to the death. Roar! 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 The fierce battle made the guardian spirit beast in the ancient palace roar again and again. It wanted to join the battle. The ancient palace shook violently countless times, but it was impossible to destroy it. Whether it was blood-maned Beast King, Black Saber, or Lin Feng, none of them had the strength to do so. However, the dual-world abyss was slowly changing. The black fog in the void was gradually dispersing. The 2 great masters, who were evenly matched, kept attacking and destroying the area. At the same time, they were absorbing the elemental energy in the dual-world abyss. The dark elements were getting rarer and rarer. The true face of the dual-world abyss was gradually revealed. As if a veil was lifted, the surrounding scenery changed dramatically. This is? Lin Feng was a little stunned. He did not expect that his battle with blood-maned Beast King and Black Saber would cause such a huge change in the dual-world abyss. The surrounding mountain rocks were rugged. After the dark energy was removed, it was another world. But in this world there was a special place that stood out from the rest. It was around the bottom of the dual world abyss. Inscriptions were clearly imprinted on the bottom of the valley that was originally covered by darkness. They contained mysterious power. There were dark inscriptions all around, which were very similar to his own demonic inscriptions. They merged into one and contained mysterious mysteries. Formation. This is formation. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He had searched for it thousands of times, but he did not expect it was right under his nose. Chapter 2195. He didn't notice it. Lin Feng blocked the claw of Blood-Maned Beast King, leaving a shadow in the void, and then dodged Blood-Maned Beast King's tail whip. Blood-Maned Beast King was completely focused on the battle, so Blood-Maned Beast King had no extra energy to be distracted. This was different from Lin Feng, who had a strong soul. For Lin Feng, being distracted was to find a better opportunity. He clearly knew that he couldn't win Blood-Maned Beast King in close combat, and he couldn't kill Blood-Maned Beast King either. Blood-Maned Beast King paid more attention to physical combat and didn't use much dark energy. He could fight for a long time with only the supreme Blood-Maned horn. Every formation contained an extreme amount of energy. It was an opportunity. What a coincidence. Lin Feng didn't expect that the formation was under the two-realm abyss, or the formation itself didn't have a real location, and it could be activated only when certain conditions were met. Both were possible. However, now was not the time to think about it, but how to solve it. Maybe I should use the formation? Lin Feng dodged again and again. The 5 changes overlapping shadows made his body move like a rainbow. Although Blood-Maned Beast King's attack was more fierce, Lin Feng wasn't seriously injured. He was eager for the formation, and so was Blood-Maned Beast King. If he activated the formation now, what would Blood-Maned Beast King do? He will attack me at all costs and kill me, so that he can take it for himself. Lin Feng's eyes lit up because he thought the same. No one would be willing to share the opportunity of the formation. This is an opportunity. While Lin Feng was dodging, streaks of energy unknowingly landed on the surrounding dark engravings, causing streaks of light to flash. Compared to the formation, what he wanted more was Blood-Maned Beast King's supreme Blood-Maned horn. After all, cultivation and opportunities were available at any time. However, there was only one supreme Blood-Maned horn of the Way of Darkness. Huh! The changes in the surroundings immediately attracted Blood-Maned Beast King's attention. Although his reaction was slow, he wasn't stupid. He could sense the changes in the surrounding terrain and the strange energy gathering, which made him excited. Formation? Blood-Maned Beast King's eyes widened, and he suddenly found it strange. The changing attacks accelerated in an instant. Blood-Maned Beast King's breathing became rapid, and his blood was burning. His sharp scales showed an indomitable aura, and his attacks became more and more fierce. Goddamn human hasn't found it yet. Kill him. Seeing the formation, the blood-devouring beast King Tila wanted to take it all for himself. This was the best opportunity for him to become a top-tier god, so how could he share it with others? Boom, boom, boom. The blood-maned beast King Temu went all out, unleashing 100% of his bloodline power. The blood-maned beast king had no idea that this was a trap set up by Lin Feng. While consuming the energy of the gathering formation, it also consumed the blood-maned beast king's heart. Every time the bloodline burst, it was like igniting the soul energy. Although the blood-maned beast king's attack had become more powerful, its speed and power had increased sharply, which had continuously wounded Lin Feng. However, the price he paid was that his soul defense gradually weakened. The longer it was, the shorter it was. Lin Feng's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Almost there, Lin Feng grunted as he was pushed back by the blood-maned beast king. He spurted out a mouthful of blood. The blood-maned beast King Tila's forte was attacking. Now, both her strength and attack speed were several times higher than before. It was hard to resist. Again, Lin Feng quickly used 5 transformations overlapping shadows, dodging continuously, and continued to consume the power of the blood-maned Beast King and Tila. There was only one chance. If he couldn't kill the blood-maned Beast King Tila, he would escape. If such an expert wanted to escape, it was unknown whether he could catch up. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't want to take the risk. Either he didn't use his blade, or once he did, he must see blood. I must get the sovereign blood-maned horn. Lin Feng clenched his teeth. Boom, boom, boom. The blood-maned Beast King Tila went even crazier, directly aiming for Lin Feng's life. You're dead, human. The gathering formation is mine. This time, I will definitely break through and become a top god. The blood-maned Beast King Tila's eyes were bloodshot. His huge body had pushed his strength to the limit. He clearly knew that the human in front of him was an arrow at the end of its flight and couldn't block his strongest attack. Go to hell! The blood-maned Beast King Tila burst out hysterically. He was determined to get the gathering formation, but suddenly his smile froze. Swish! As if an invisible arrow had shot into his brain, the blood-maned Beast King Tila's body paused. The incomparable pain was like tens of thousands of insects biting his soul. The pain was shocking. Although he had the geographical advantage, which made his fighting strength reach the level of a top god. But his strength didn't change. Even if the blood-maned Beast King Tila's talent was outstanding, the continuous eruption of his bloodline had consumed a lot of his soul energy. He was caught off guard by Lin Feng's sudden attack, and his soul felt like it was being torn apart. Roar! The blood-maned Beast King Tila roared crazily, rolling in the air in pain. The blood-red scales on his body bulged, oozing terrifying blood. God-damned human, The blood-maned Beast King Tila roared again and again, but he couldn't curse. Before the first wave of pain disappeared, the second wave of pain came, directly destroying his will. The blood-maned Beast King Tila's eyes became dim and lifeless, and his body trembled violently. Boom! Lin Feng's blade fell directly, sending the blood-maned Beast King Tila flying. Although the injury was not light, Lin Feng's recovery ability was not a problem, not to mention that the blood-maned Beast King Tila's soul was severely injured. What a tough defense, what a strong will. Lin Feng felt the blood-maned Beast King Tila's tyrannical vitality. After receiving the third wave of the Kuan Ling Heart arrow twice, he was still tenaciously struggling. But now it was a critical moment. If he didn't succeed, he would die. He wouldn't give the blood-maned Beast King Tila any chance to counterattack. Fight! Lin Feng used the Kuan Ling Heart arrow for the third time, which consumed 90% of his soul energy. Even with the 10,000 origin mustard stone protecting his soul, he felt the world spinning and was incomparably weak. Biting the tip of his tongue, Lin Feng used the last of his strength to attack the blood-maned Beast King Tila, who had completely lost his defense. If this attack failed again, he would be the one running away. Boom! The blood-maned Beast King Tila's last trace of breath was completely devoured, and his breath died. Swish! Hating flashed a cold light, and his head was directly smashed, harvesting the blood-maned sovereign's horn. Hua hua hua, the dark engravings of the two-world abyss shone, connecting into a line and finally becoming one. Endless dark energy descended, and the sky was dark, as if one was in a sea of darkness. The endless source of darkness descended. Gather formation, activate. Gulp. Lin Feng quickly consumed the Kuan Ling race's inner core, but 90% of his soul energy was consumed. No matter how strong his will was, he couldn't continue. The moment he killed the blood-maned Beast King Tila, Lin Feng fell into the formation and fainted. But on his face there was a slight smile. He won. Chapter 2196. Under the two-world abyss, there was a dark, glazed light. The dense dark elements were arranged in a strange pattern like soldiers. Each dark element was closely connected to another dark element. The connection of 100,000 sources was clear and direct. All the spirit energy in the dark world was gathered into a formation. Lin Feng was right. The formation was activated under specific conditions. Besides the two-world abyss, there were two other places that had the chance to activate it, but the conditions were very strict. There had to be a battle and enough killing aura to activate it. If there was no battle and killing, even if the dark mist was driven away, no dark patterns would appear, let alone activate the formation. The conditions for activating the formation were different in each world, but the same thing was. Once the formation was activated, it would gather 80% of the spirit energy in the world. It was very powerful. For the strong people who participated in the reincarnation of destiny, it was a great opportunity. Especially for the weaker warriors, it was a chance for them to break through and improve. A large amount of dark energy poured in, and Lin Feng absorbed it all at once. Swish, swish, the dark demonic pattern was extremely bright. It had reached the limit of the fourth stage, but because of it, the dark light ball, it could not reach the fifth stage. That day, Lin Feng obtained the dark light ball from the blood python's lair. It was a top-tier pinnacle true treasure. He thought it could improve his bloodline and easily make the dark demonic pattern reach the fifth stage from the fourth stage. But it was not. After the dark light ball merged, it could promote the evolution of the bloodline and quickly reach the limit of the fourth stage. But after that, it stagnated, because the dark light ball had become a part of the bloodline. If the bloodline was to evolve, then the dark ball of light would have to evolve as well. They were bound together for good or ill. The dark light ball needed a large amount of dark energy to evolve. Although Lin Feng had been absorbing it, there was still a huge gap. But now there was a silver lining. The huge influx of energy broke the shackles and filled the dark light ball. With the dark light ball as the center, he released the bloodline power and easily reached the next level. Not only that, but he also obtained a top-tier pinnacle true treasure. Top-tier pinnacle true treasures were extremely rare, and the bloodline type was even rarer. If he couldn't store enough dark energy, the dark light ball would be a hindrance and become a huge shackle that was difficult to break. After all, the ratio between saturation and absorption rate was huge. However, once it evolved and transformed, the dark ball of light would truly display its abilities. A top-tier pinnacle true treasure. However, the current Lin Feng's soul was severely injured, and he had long since fallen into a deep sleep. Phew. Long breaths accompanied Lin Feng's evolution. He hungrily absorbed the energy from the array formation. An inexhaustible amount of dark energy flowed into his body through the dark sphere of light. If other experts saw this, they would definitely be dumbfounded and gasp in amazement. His body automatically absorbed the dark energy to enhance his bloodline. It was unbelievable. However, this was the power of a top-tier pinnacle true treasure of the bloodline type. Although he had spent a lot of effort, he had gained a lot. 1 year, Lin Feng was still in a deep slumber. Due to the excessive depletion of his soul force, his body automatically protected him. Fortunately, Lin Feng had consumed the inner core of the Kuan spirit race before he fell into a deep slumber. Although he couldn't refine the inner core, his body would still slowly digest it. Although the absorption was very slow, it was 100 times faster than the recovery of soul power from sleeping. It saved a lot of time. Ugh! Lin Feng had a splitting headache. After sleeping for nearly 10 years, he finally woke up. He sat up and glanced around. Fragments of memories flooded his mind, including the battle with the blood-maned beast King and Tina, the activation of the array formation, the evolution of his bloodline, the transformation of his dark patterns, and the top-tier pinnacle true treasure, the Maoyuan demonic orb. Improving bloodline grade, strengthening bloodline attributes, talent abilities. Lin Feng clearly remembered the moment the Muan demonic orb transformed. His dark mageweth seemed to have come to life. It was completely different from before. These were just minor effects. The biggest effect of the orb was to automatically absorb the dark energy and turn it into bloodline energy. It was terrifying. What did this mean? He didn't need to find any more bloodline-type treasures. He only needed to absorb the dark energy and turn it into pure and perfect bloodline energy. It should be noted that the bloodline treasures required to upgrade the dark patterns from the 5th stage to the 6th stage were extremely expensive. Money was a small matter. He was most afraid that he couldn't buy so many bloodline treasures even if he had the money. But now, he didn't need to worry anymore. Although it doesn't have any attacking ability, and the increase in combat power is minimal, it's more precious than any pinnacle true treasure. Foundation was more important than pinnacle true treasures, especially since the orb could be used not only now, but also when he became a heaven god or even a godmaster. As for other pinnacle true treasures, they would be eliminated at the heaven god level, just like the excellent true treasure now. Such rich dark energy. Cultivating in the array formation can improve my dark attainment very quickly, but the absorption speed is even faster. Soon, the dark array formation will disappear. Lin Feng made good use of the time and began to cultivate. Insect spirit inner cores quickly entered his stomach, recovering his soul power. To him, as long as his soul didn't fall into a deep sleep, it was just a matter of how many inner cores he consumed. The path of assassination. Myriad annihilation. This isn't a real assassination. The key to myriad annihilation is the word annihilation. Swift and decisive, annihilating everything. Myriad is the path of light, thousands of incarnations. He comprehended separately. Although he could comprehend myriad annihilation's path of light here, the efficiency would be greatly reduced. Comprehending myriad annihilation's path of assassination was not only half the result with twice the effort, but also 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times. 10 years passed. Lin Feng spent a lot of time in the array formation, but because no one competed with him, and the only spot for the dark side was taken by Wu Tongyao, he didn't feel any pressure and progressed smoothly. In just 30 years, the word annihilation of myriad annihilation had been completed. Qi. Wherever the blade passed, the energy disappeared instantly, forming a vacuum. The terrifying annihilation made myriad annihilation seem to have a soul. It's done. Lin Feng put away his blade and stood. Although myriad annihilation hadn't been perfected, and there was still 50% of it left, its power had already surpassed the 4th move, boundless weight. It was an extremely fast blade with great power. Phew! Lin Feng looked up and scanned his surroundings. At this time, the dark energy in the array formation was less than 1% of its peak, so it wasn't very useful. However, his cultivation had ended. It's time to kill that guardian spirit beast and move on to the next destination. Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile. To him now, this guardian spirit beast was no longer a threat. He had to get the treasure. Chapter 2197. The current 2-world abyss was already sparse and there was nothing special about it. There was no thick black haze or huge dark energy. Not only the 2-world abyss, but the energy of the dark world had been consumed with the opening of the exit, and the gathering array had absorbed 80%. Now there was less than 10% of the energy left. Lin Feng looked up at the ancient palace, which was like a steep mountain, and heard the fierce roar of the guardian spirit beast. He smiled faintly and stepped in. Without the geographical advantage, the guardian spirit beast was only at the limit of a high-level god. Now that his life level had changed, his combat power was also at the limit of a high-level god. Killing it was not difficult at all. Boom! The 1,000 annihilation fell, and the guardian spirit beast with the head of a tiger and the body of a crocodile turned into pure dark energy. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, it disappeared in the ancient palace and no longer existed. Lin Feng stood with his sword in hand, his eyes bright. Dozens of years of bitter cultivation had transformed into the 10,000 annihilation saber art, and it had killed the guardian spirit beast. It used to be able to compete with him, but now this guardian spirit beast was no longer a threat to him. The seal in the ancient palace was unlocked, and the black halo in front of the room shattered. Lin Feng walked in. Shua! A huge black crystal armor appeared in front of him. Together with the helmet, it exuded a strong murderous aura. The helmet was pitch black, but there seemed to be a pair of invisible eyes, giving people great pressure. Pinnacle true treasure. Lin Feng stood in front of the huge black crystal armor and smiled. Just as he had guessed, in the treasure land of the 10-direction treasure gathering array, there were usually pinnacle true treasures or treasures of the same value. I can make the best use of the dark type armor. And I have mastered 4 of the 6 paths of 100,000 origins of the dark type. Lin Feng stared at the black crystal armor. Although it was not the best treasure that he had expected and could help him improve his combat ability the most, at least it was not useless. It was definitely useful. Also, the greatest advantage of a battlesuit was that it did not require too much energy to bring out most of its effect. Blood flowed into the black crystal armor, and in an instant it seemed to come alive. A surging murderous aura spread out. With a bang, the black crystal armor disintegrated. The arm, the leg armor, the helmet fell from all directions. As the black crystal light flashed, it gradually shrank. Pop, pop, pop. As if it was made of steel armor, the black crystal armor instantly fused with his entire body. In the end, he put on the helmet and disappeared. It didn't have a physical body, but its defense was genuine. High-grade pinnacle true treasure, Shura King armor. Lin Feng was moved. Its grade was quite high. He ran his hands over the black crystals, and the moment he touched them, he felt as if countless demons and monsters were pouncing on him. Even if he was their master, there was no difference. This was a characteristic of Shura's King armor. First, basic defensive capabilities. Secondly, the King armor can cause illusory magic to interfere with the enemy. Shura's King armor had 2 passive abilities that did not need to be controlled. It was very common among true treasure armors. The only active ability, the Dark Demon 100,000 Origins secret art, Shura's killing intent, using willpower and dark power to enhance the attack. The stronger one's willpower and dark attainments were, the greater the increase in Shura's killing intent would be. When one burned to the limit, even one's heart would be lost. However, compared to the side effects, Shura's killing intent was too useful. Any secret art that could directly increase one's strength in battle was excellent. Shura's killing intent was one of them. My assassination and Dark Demon 100,000 Origins have been comprehended. Not only can Shura's killing intent grasp faster, but its power can also be unleashed to the extreme. Plus, I have the 10,000 Origins mustard stone guarding my soul, and willpower is my strength. Shura's killing intent will definitely be able to unleash extremely strong power, and it won't be a problem for me to surpass 1 level easily. Lin Feng nodded secretly. Although Shura's King armor only had 1 active ability, its power was extraordinary. It was worthy of being a high-grade true treasure. First, he used the formation to enhance his bloodline. Then, he used the treasure land to obtain Shura's King armor. Although he did not find the exit, this trip to the world of darkness was also fruitful. Now, I have the combat power of a high-level god in close combat. Coupled with the 3rd stage of the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow, I can definitely compete with top-tier gods. If I also comprehend Shura's killing intent, I will have enough capital. Including the 5 elemental lands, I can challenge the guardian deities of the other exit. Lin Feng saw hope. The 10-direction treasure gathering formation had endless possibilities. Although those top-tier gods had probably entered the 4th reincarnation, there was no need to rush. The first 3 reincarnations were relatively simple, and the last 4 reincarnations were each more terrifying than the last. It would not matter if he spent a little more time here. The most important thing was to ensure that his combat power increased step by step. Now that the world of darkness's spirit chi has dissipated, there probably won't be any other experts coming. I can cultivate here in peace and comprehend Shura's killing intent before I set off. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He knew very well that Shura's killing intent would be one of his strongest weapons in the future. No matter how much time it took, he had to master it. Time flew. In the 10-direction treasure-gathering formation, the exits of the worlds were found one after another, and the experts left one after another. The first to leave was Hun Chi, the only top-tier god in the Tianming reincarnation. He had an absolute advantage since the first reincarnation, and no other special life form could be compared to him. He was the first to enter the 10-direction treasure-gathering formation and the first to leave, and he broke through one of the most difficult worlds, on the other side of space. Most of the experts in the Tianming reincarnation were proficient in the Tao of space and the law of space, but in terms of strength, none of them could compete with Hun Chi. The second to leave was the top-tier god, the Diamond Empress. With her talent in Yin and the Tao of space, she easily left through the Yin side of Qian Kuan without hesitation. For her, there was nothing in the 10-direction treasure-gathering formation that could attract her. The third to leave was the king of the Tianming race, Wu Haodi. With his powerful soul power, he had already locked onto the Yin side of Qian Kuanyang. At the smallest cost, he ignored the terrain and environment and used his strength to force his way through. The fourth to leave was Lei Mozi. Among all the experts in the Tianming reincarnation, he was the only one who was proficient in the Tao of Lightning. The Tao of Lightning was his. The fifth to leave was Lu Gong. In the world of force, he clashed with Lu Ermi Kong, who was also proficient in the Tao of force, and sparks flew. Although Lu Ermi Kong had performed better in the first 2 rounds of the Heavenly Tao reincarnation, in the third round of the Heavenly Tao reincarnation, strength was the true standard. The top-tier god, Lu Gong, killed Lu Ermi Kong and obtained the world of force slot. This was something Lin Feng did not know, because before he entered the 10-direction treasure-gathering formation, 5 out of the 10 spots had already been taken. Chapter 2198. When Lin Feng entered the 10-direction treasure formation and obtained the formation and the treasure land, 2 more spots were obtained. One of them was the Dark World, which was obtained by the top-tier god Wu Tongya. The other was the Earth World. Both top-tier gods, Wither and Wu Tongdashan, fought fiercely. One had a stronger spatial ability, and the other had a stronger body. They were evenly matched. In the end, Wu Tongsher didn't continue his good luck. Even though Wither, who performed better in the first 2 rounds, was unlucky and wasted a lot of time searching for the Earth World, he still successfully advanced. This was the accumulation of advantages, and it couldn't be underestimated. Even the slightest advantage could be a decisive factor in the future. Therefore, those top-tier gods didn't stay in the 3rd reincarnation for too long and entered the 4th. At this time, there were only 3 spots left for the 10-direction treasure formation, but there were still many top-tier gods and powerful beings left. The most difficult spot to obtain was the Time World, which had no powerful beings at this time. The other 2 elemental worlds, the light side and the wind side, were filled with smoke and flames of war. Yen Fa Jie, the most powerful being on the Origin Awakening list in the Light World, welcomed Wu Tongdashan, who had failed to compete for the Earth World's spot. The Wind World's top-tier god, Butterfly Phoenix, collided with the resourceful Li Qing. Dong Wang and Bailey Jean were also scattered in the Light World and Wind World. Because only here did they have a chance. The Time World was the most difficult place. None of the powerful beings were proficient in the path of time, so their combat power was weakened when they entered, and the guardian god was even more difficult to defeat. Among all the powerful beings who entered the reincarnation cycle, only Hun Kong had absolute confidence in passing. As for Lin Feng, he was now compatible with a pinnacle true treasure and cultivating Shura's killing intent. He knew very well that this would be his trump card. Based on the current progress, the yin, yang, and force worlds are the least difficult. Even if the energy attributes are not compatible, the top-tier gods can easily defeat the guardian god without any difficulty. I passed the second reincarnation, but the other powerful beings didn't. Therefore, the spots for these 3 worlds are most likely gone, unless the 10-direction treasure formation is like a maze and difficult to find. But that was not the case. The connection between each world and the other worlds was clear and concise. It did not take much effort to find them. The 10-directional treasure-gathering formation was not a maze, but a treasure-gathering place. Experts from all over the world are skilled in the Tao of space. This quota has already been decided. Among the 5 elemental worlds, excluding the world of darkness, there should be 1 or 2 spots that have already been decided. There should only be 2 or 3 spots left for the elemental worlds and 1 for the time world. There must be a slot for one of the worlds of time. Lin Feng was very clear. No matter what, it was very difficult to snatch a spot in the world of time. This was because this was a wandering planet, and the space Tao, which was also a demi-ranked law, completely suppressed the time Tao. Almost every living being here was proficient in the Tao of space rather than the Tao of time. Coupled with the difficulty of the world of time itself, defeating the guardian deity there was even harder than ascending to the heavens. Not only the other experts, but he also had no chance of winning. But right now, if he didn't cultivate Shura's killing intent, he wouldn't even be able to defeat the guardian of the elemental world. Therefore, even if he wasted a lot of time, there was nothing he could do. This was a path he had to take. The Tao of assassination and the Tao of dark demon fused into one and became Shura. Using slaughter to drive them away, that is where the secret lies. The guardian divine beast of the treasure land uses the Azura killing intent, which is its innate talent. As he cultivated, Lin Feng soon discovered. The guardian beast of the treasure land that he defeated that day had Shura's killing intent. However, his Shura's killing intent was very pure and simple. It could be felt and expressed in words. However, it was really difficult to comprehend it. After all, it was obtained by talent. However, he could learn a little from it. The key is the killing intent. Only with enough killing intent and the killing intent can one be fully comprehended. He closed his eyes. In his mind, images appeared clearly. With his powerful soul ability, Lin Feng could naturally construct simulated battle scenes in his mind. He recalled his life and death reincarnation and the endless slaughter he had experienced. Slowly, wisps of killing intent seeped out from his body and gradually strengthened. Soon, it surpassed the guardian beast's killing intent. The double-edged blade. The strength of the killing intent directly increases the power of Shura's killing intent, but at the same time, it will also affect the will. It is indeed a secret technique that fuses with the Tao of Dark Demon. Lin Feng was no stranger to it. His cultivation base was quite high in the Tao of Dark Demon. In terms of power, it could be said to be the most outstanding of the 6 paths of darkness because the side effects of the Tao of Dark Demon were quite great. Since ancient times, there had been countless experts who had been immersed in the Tao of Dark Demon and lost their mind. They were devoured by the darkness in their hearts and became the slaves of the Dark Demon, turning into evil. But Lin Feng would not. With the strength of his will, even if killing intent filled the sky, he could still maintain a clear heart. His self-cultivation was not affected by anything, and he also had the 10,000 origin mustard stone to guard his soul. Endless killing intent covered the surface of his body. Lin Feng's killing intent was resolute. His strength increased one by one, turning into mysterious patterns that floated on Shura's king armor. Clang! The high-grade peak-level true treasure Shura's king armor seemed to come alive, and a huge aura spread out naturally. Lin Feng turned into Shura, and a black battle helmet appeared. On top of it there was a clear pattern that looked like a strange letter, shining with a clear golden light. Boom! Lin Feng held Black Skeleton in his hand, and his battle power increased dramatically. Boom! 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 His attacking power exploded one after another. While he was immersed in the perfect killing intent, Lin Feng's comprehension of the saber technique, 10,000 Annihilation, had unknowingly entered a perfect state. Both techniques possessed the characteristics of the Tao of assassination, and when they used each other as references, they complemented each other and fused with each other. That's the feeling. Very good. Lin Feng himself did not expect it. All along, 10,000 Annihilation had not been able to see the door. But today, when he was comprehending and cultivating Shura's killing intent, he opened the door. It was like a flower planted with the intention not to bloom, but a willow planted without the intention to grow. 1 year after another. 10,000 Annihilation's comprehension became more and more mature, and from small success to large success, his power increased by more than a few times. But this was not Lin Feng's biggest gain. Huff! Shura's king armor seemed to be breathing, and a huge killing intent spread out. The black crystals on the king armor lit up, and golden letters appeared on the faintly discernible battle helmet. Lin Feng's aura suddenly increased dramatically. The terrifying power seemed to come from the endless void, and it was strong enough to kill gods. At this moment, Lin Feng's battle power had completely reached the standard of a top-tier god, and he was not inferior to Wu Tongyao, who had challenged the guardian god. Finally, it's done. Lin Feng's exquisite eyes were revealed from the battle helmet. He held Black Skeleton in his hand, and a smile appeared on his face. Shura's killing intent comprehended. Chapter 2199. How strong was Shura's killing intent? Lin Feng didn't know either, but he knew that if he returned to the world of wind, not only would he be able to defeat the guardian spirit beast in the mirage, but he would also be able to defeat the guardian god of the world of wind. Instead of searching aimlessly for the world of light, he might as well be more direct and concise. He knew exactly where the world of wind was. I hope the quota for the world of wind is still there. Lin Feng drew a perfect beam of light in the air. Even in the 10 directions treasure-gathering formation, he could use the double light speed secret technique as he wished without any restrictions. The strange beasts in the dark side roared, wanting to kill this uninvited guest, but from the time they discovered him to the time they chased him and attacked him, he had already disappeared. Lin Feng wouldn't waste time on them. Quick! Lin Feng was also a little anxious. The third reincarnation was indeed an opportunity for weak warriors, but the reincarnation of destiny was fair. 4 strong warriors, they could pass through the 10 directions treasure-gathering formation earlier and enter the 4th reincarnation. There were only 10 quotas, so advancing meant that there would be 1 less. Lin Feng knew very well that he was already at a disadvantage because he came late. In addition, the quota for the world of darkness was snatched, so he was at an even greater disadvantage. Although he gained a lot of benefits, if possible, he still hoped to enter the 4th reincarnation. After all, he could gain a lot with every reincarnation. Even though he had almost been eliminated in the 2nd reincarnation, he had gained a lot. He had improved his path of space to the extreme, so there was no longer any obstacle for him to advance to the level of a god. Needless to say, the 3rd reincarnation was a great transformation. If he didn't guess wrongly, the difficulty of the 4th reincarnation would greatly increase, and the benefits he could obtain would also increase sharply. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. I'm here. Lin Feng looked ahead. From afar, he could already sense the wind energy seeping out from the other side of the broken corridor canyon. Lin Feng sped up and quickly passed through. The already weak dark energy dissipated in an instant, and endless wind elemental energy surged forth. It was a familiar area, but the feeling was completely different. The wind energy is only about 20% compared to before. It seems that the gathering formation has been found. However, the wind energy still hasn't completely dissipated. The only place left at the exit is still there. Lin Feng was very experienced now. The energy of a world was roughly composed of two parts. 20% was occupied by the guardian deity and the only exit. 80% was occupied by the formation. This was the case for the world of darkness. Quick. Maintaining double light speed, Lin Feng quickly searched for an exit. With his current strength, he had more than a 95% chance of defeating the guardian deity, even if his strength would be weakened here. Yifeng Valley. This was a world of wind. Countless wind elements danced about. Sometimes there was a gentle breeze, sometimes there was a gentle breeze, sometimes there was a howling gale, and sometimes there were tornadoes. The wonders of nature were on full display here. The two experts stood on this piece of land and stared at each other. One of them was exquisite and had a pair of fiery red wings. She seemed to be the embodiment of beauty. She was a special life form of the god-fallen world, the black butterfly phoenix. Her strength was so strong that others could only look up to her. The man opposite her was dressed in azure robes. He looked valiant and carefree. He was a famous expert on the Origin Awakening list, the Azure Dragon King Li Qing. The world of wind had been a battle between the Black Butterfly Phoenix and Li Qing since the beginning. This was because only the two of them were compatible with the wind bloodline. I am ashamed of my inferiority to the Butterfly Phoenix's strength. Li Qing's lips were stained with blood, and his face was slightly pale. You are also not bad. The Black Butterfly Phoenix's fiery red wings flapped, bringing with them a trace of soul rhythm. Her pure and flawless eyes seemed to be able to see through everything in the world. She was one of the rare special life forms that was proficient in the path of the soul. Li Qing smiled valiantly, aggravating his injuries. Cough, cough. The path of reincarnation is indeed not something that ordinary people can walk. Although I had an extraordinary encounter and was lucky enough to enter the formation and increase my strength, but Li Qing let out a long sigh, appearing desolate and lonely. So what if he had an extraordinary encounter? If he was inferior to others, then he was inferior to others. Even if his cultivation had increased greatly, and he was close to a top-tier god, he was no longer afraid of Yen Fa, who was ranked first on the Origin Awakening list. However, he was helpless against this beautiful fairy in front of him. The difference in strength was still huge. Are all the experts of the Origin Awakening continent like you? The Black Butterfly Phoenix looked at Li Qing with sparkling eyes. Li Qing laughed heartily. Although we are weak, our fighting spirit is strong and we are unyielding. Even if I lose to you now, it doesn't mean everything. There is still time and I will fight for the next spot. I wish you good luck. The Black Butterfly Phoenix nodded and looked deeply at Li Qing. Her fiery red wings flapped, and her figure flickered as she left. I wish you good luck as well, Li Qing said softly as he looked at the Black Butterfly Phoenix's back. There was no dejection in his eyes. As long as the third path of reincarnation had not ended, he still had a chance. Pa. Lin Feng, who was rushing forward, suddenly stopped. A gentle breeze blew past, and an image instantly appeared in his mind. An incomparably beautiful figure flapped her fiery red wings like a spirit of the wind, flying into a space of light. That face was like the most perfect masterpiece of the Creator, without any flaws. Especially her bright eyes, which were as clear as crystal and pure as ice. Black Butterfly Phoenix. Lin Feng recognized her at a glance. In the god-fallen world, the Black Butterfly Phoenix was already famous, and her appearance was very recognizable. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes regained their brightness, and he felt a trace of regret. Another one! I wonder how many spots are left. It was the same as the world of darkness. An image appeared in his mind, which meant that the world of wind's spot had been used up. Instantly, the surrounding wind energy seemed to be sucked away, and the only spot disappeared. Whoosh! Lin Feng increased his speed and continued to move. There was no time for regret now. Although he had lost the spot for the world of wind, there was obviously still a spot for the 10-directional treasure formation. Otherwise, he would have been kicked out of the third path of reincarnation. The wind forest that I passed by earlier was a little special. There seemed to be weak earth elements. Let's go and take a look. To Lin Feng, it did not matter which elemental world he went to now. With enough power, there was nowhere he could not go. Whoosh, just as he entered the world of Earth, Lin Feng frowned. About 80% of the Earth's energy. Based on the situation of the world of wind and the world of darkness, the formation has not been discovered, but the spot has been lost. Lin Feng sighed and shook his head. Actually, it was normal. After all, the exit was not difficult to find. As long as one was patient enough, they could find it. Obtaining a spot did not depend on luck, but on strength. But forming the formation required a fortuitous opportunity. Continue. There must be an empty spot for a world. Lin Feng was very decisive. Chapter 2200. On the side of light, there was a corridor of 10 suns. The 10 suns emitted a scorching light, forming a unique passageway. Under normal circumstances, the passageway would be broken, but when the 10 suns formed a line, it would form a passageway. The passageway would form once every 10 years, and it would only take 2 seconds to form before dissipating. If one wanted to enter and defeat the guardian deity, they would have to make full use of these 2 seconds. This was the exit of the side of light. At this moment, outside the exit, a man with his eyes closed was floating in midair. His surroundings were filled with a warm white light, and spatial energy wrapped around the light element. It was like a Buddha's light illuminating everything. He had a head of wild black hair, and he had an unruly domineering aura. He had earrings in his ears, a tall nose, sharp cheeks, and steel-like bones. He gave off the domineering aura of a superior being, as if he were an emperor among men. He was the Emperor Emeritus of the Emperor's Star Pavilion. The strongest person on the Origin Awakener list, Yen Fa. Boom. Boom. The ground shook as a mountain-like figure rushed over from the distance. He had 2 horns on his head and gathered the power of lightning. His body was like a mountain giant, and his palms were like giant palm leaf fans. Any casual palm strike would be able to shatter a person into pieces. In his right hand was a spiked club with sharp barbs. A top-tier deity, Wu Tongshan. Previously, in the world on the side of the earth, Wu Tongshan and Tiku had engaged in an intense competition for the only slot. In the end, Wu Tongshan had been defeated, but he had only been injured. After all, they were both top-tier deities, and Wu Tongshan's body was strong and he specialized in defense. It would not be easy for Tiku to kill him. Now that he had made a comeback, Wu Tongshan was naturally aiming for the slot in the side of light. Even though he did not have the advantage here, with his strength as a top-tier deity, he was still confident that he could kill the guardian deity and obtain the slot to enter the 4th path of reincarnation. Get out of the way, and I won't kill you. Wu Tongshan's voice was like a bell, causing the mountains to shake and the ground to collapse. Whoosh! Yen Fa opened his eyes, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Clang! He unsheathed the saber on his back. It was completely white and emitted an extremely bright light. The golden dragon on the saber soared into the air, forming a ripple behind Yen Fa that gradually took shape. Defeat me, and the slot is yours. Yen Fa laughed wildly. His figure appeared like lightning as he charged towards Wu Tongshan. Boom! The dark side, the wind side, the earth side, and the thunder side. After a long time, Lin Feng finally arrived at light's side. After going through the 5 elements, I finally found it. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. His luck really wasn't that good. He had wasted a lot of time. But fortunately, the energy density of the world of light was still 100% and didn't weaken at all. This meant that the formation had not been found, and the guardian of the exit had not been defeated. It seems a little strange. Lin Feng understood. With so many masters entering the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation, even the top-level deities would take up almost all the slots. With their strength, there was no need for them to care about the guardian deities of the elemental world. They could just barge in directly. He was already late to begin with. Adding the time he spent cultivating in the world of darkness and the time he spent searching for the world of light, no matter how he looked at it, there was no reason for the light faction to have more slots. However, the density of the energy would not lie. Once I find the exit, I'll know. Lin Feng moved quickly. Although he couldn't figure out why, since there was a chance, even if it was only 1 in 1,000, he couldn't let it go. Using the secret technique, double light speed, Lin Feng's speed was astonishing. In this world of light, he was like a fish in water. The rich light energy baptism caused the divine patterns of light to shine. The absorption and refinement of the god-light rhinoceros horn had entered the final stage. Of the 6 paths of light, he only needed one to reach perfection. Is the exit's location hidden, or is there an unknown danger here? Or did someone do it deliberately? Various possibilities appeared in Lin Feng's mind as he moved forward cautiously. There must be a reason for this abnormality. The special situation of the world of light made him suspicious and even more cautious. Soon, where is this? Lin Feng's gaze swept across an empty palace. In the distance, there were layers upon layers of mountains and lush trees. There were many similarities between this place and the Mirage Palace in the Wind Continent. The only difference was that this place seemed to be completely empty and devoid of people. If I'm not wrong, this should be the treasure land of the Light faction. The treasure land wasn't hard to find. The 3rd path of reincarnation had been opened for so long. If the treasure land still existed, it would be strange. I wonder who got it. Lin Feng was also fond of the treasures of the Light faction. After all, the treasures of the Darkness faction had benefited him greatly. Not to mention the increase in his defense. Just the Shura's killing intent had made him reborn. The treasures of the Light faction naturally wouldn't be too bad. However, each had their own destiny. Insatiable greed, I'm really greedy. Lin Feng chuckled. Just as he was about to continue his journey, his heart suddenly moved. His gaze landed not far away. He was slightly surprised, and his eyes immediately lit up. Shwa! Shwa! His body changed directions several times, bypassed the palace, and quickly passed through layers of ancient stone halls. In front of him, there was an engraved formation shining with colorful light. The figure in the formation couldn't be seen, but the aura was very familiar. Boom! Lin Feng's aura suddenly soared. In an instant, the people in the formation were awakened. The colorful light flashed, revealing a figure. They looked at each other and smiled. Patriarch! 7th brother. They met again after a long separation. Lin Feng didn't expect to meet Patriarch Dongwang here. It was also a coincidence, but it made sense. Like him, Patriarch Dongwang had entered the 3rd path of reincarnation. If he hadn't been killed by other experts, he would naturally be in the Light faction. After all, Patriarch Dongwang cultivated the Tao of Light. Patriarch, your strength has improved a lot, Lin Feng said with a smile. Just from the aura alone, Patriarch Dongwang was now a high-level god spirit expert. The opportunities in the heavenly fate reincarnation are great. Dongwang smiled slightly. Even if I can't pass the tests, I can still benefit from it. I'm not the only one who improved. The Azure Dragon King, Bailey Jean, and Yen Fajia, all of them had a huge breakthrough, including you, 7th brother. Dongwang's gaze fell on Lin Feng. He smiled and said, Your improvement is greater than any expert on the Origin Awakening list. Lin Feng smiled and didn't deny it. In the heavenly fate reincarnation, he had indeed advanced 3 steps at a time and completely transformed. By the way, Patriarch, did you take the treasure here? Lin Feng looked around and asked curiously. Dong Wang shook his head gently and said, "Although I came early, the treasure had already been taken by others. But to be honest, even if I had arrived earlier, I wouldn't have had the strength to defeat the guardian spiritual beast. He deserves this peerless treasure." Him? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Chapter 2201. Lin Feng looked at Dong Wang, the patriarch. Obviously, the patriarch knew a lot of information. As expected, Dong Wang nodded slightly. Yen Fa Jie took the treasures here. The strongest on the Source Awakening list? Lin Feng said softly. Yen Fa Jie also cultivated the path of light, so it was not surprising that he was here. But how did the patriarch know? As if he knew what Lin Feng was thinking, Dong Wang smiled. Because not only have I seen Yen Fa Jie, but I also know where he is now. Let's go, I'll take you to see him. Lin Feng was slightly startled. See Yen Fa Jie? Seventh brother, didn't you come here to find the exit? Dong Wang smiled and pointed. Yen Fa Jie is at the exit. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Suddenly, he said softly, and the doubts in his heart were relieved. No wonder he still had a place to enter the world of light. He's bold. Although they were opponents, Lin Feng also admired Yen Fa Jie's actions. Dong Wang nodded. He has a long-term vision and doesn't fight for time. Yen Fa Jie is indeed a dragon among men to have the inheritance of the Heaven Road impasse. He knows very well that with his current strength, even if he can enter the fourth reincarnation or even pass it, he has no hope of winning against those terrible special life forms in the God-fallen world, especially Bastard. The only peak god. Lin Feng nodded. He was a mysterious dragon. In the first 3 reincarnations, he didn't even see what he looked like. So Yen Fa Jie chose to cultivate here to improve his strength as much as possible. Dong Wang said, before entering the 3rd reincarnation, Yen Fa Jie had broken through to become a top god, and he obtained the peak true treasure, Light of Heaven. His strength is even more unfathomable. He is not inferior to the top gods in the God-fallen world. If he goes to the 4th reincarnation now, I estimate that the possibility of him advancing will be more than 90%. Lin Feng said. His ambition is not in the 4th reincarnation. Dong Wang nodded and said, Yen Fa Jie is practicing in the 10 Suns Broken Corridor at the exit. Anyone who can defeat him will get a place in the world of light. Defeat him? Lin Feng was not confident. In addition, Yen Fa Jie himself was a top-tier god spirit, and he was also compatible with a pinnacle true treasure. One could imagine how terrifying his strength was. Although he cultivated the Tao of light, his forte was the fusion of light and darkness. In terms of geographical advantage, the enhancement was not that great. Even with the addition of Shura's killing intent, Yen Fa Jie also had the firmament ray. These 2 pinnacle true treasures were probably not that different. His combat power was only at the limit of a high-level god, while Yen Fa Jie was a top-tier god. This was a fundamental difference. The only way to defeat him was to rely on the Kuan Ling heart arrow. However, the human soul was strong to begin with. For a top expert like Yen Fa Jie, his willpower was even stronger. His soul defense was probably stronger than a top god's. It would be difficult to win against him. 7th brother, you don't really want to defeat him, do you? Dong Wang looked at Lin Feng. He was clear about Yen Fa Jie's strength, but he could not see through his 7th brother's strength at all. Every time they met, his 7th brother brought him great shock, and his strength improved by leaps and bounds. But to defeat Yen Fa Jie, was it really possible? Dong Wang found it hard to imagine because he knew how powerful Yen Fa Jie was. I want to, Lin Feng replied with a smile. But it may be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot or a moth flying into a flame. It's okay, Dong Wang said. It's just a challenge. Even if he loses, Yen Fa Jie won't kill him. His martial arts ethics are excellent. I really admire this. Not long ago, Wu Tongshan challenged him. It was so dangerous, but he let go of the seriously injured Wu Tongshan. Yes. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Is he not injured? Dong Wang shook his head. Then he is really strong. Lin Feng sighed. Wu Tongshan was a real top god. Even if he had the geographical advantage, Yen Fag's strength was unfathomable to defeat Wu Tongshan. The 10 Suns Corridor. The scorching suns rotated, like 10 planets revolving around a star. It was very spectacular. Endless light energy was released in large quantities as the 10 suns rotated, making the light elements in the entire area much denser than outside. This was a natural holy land for the cultivation of the great path of light. Senior Yen Fa. Lin Feng bowed slightly and greeted him. He sincerely admired such a senior with martial arts ethics and the heart of an expert. If I'm not wrong, you are the demonic broadsword King Lin Feng, who has recently become famous. Yen Fa laughed heartily and looked at Dong Wang. The human clan of the Milky Way is really enviable. Dong Wang smiled and nodded with satisfaction. He knew what Yen Fa meant. Even the Ziwei Star Tower, the strongest force on the Origin Awakening list, did not have such an outstanding successor. However, the human clan of the Milky Way got one. As the retired emperor of the Ziwei Star Tower, Yen Fag's words came from the bottom of his heart and were not flattering. Senior, you are too polite, Lin Feng said casually. Yen Fag's gaze fell on Lin Feng, and his voice was slightly shocked. I have always said that, Lin Feng, your life level has not reached the god level? Senior, you have good eyesight, Lin Feng said. Dong Wang also sighed. He and Bailey Jean both knew that Lin Feng was quite a monster. His life level had not reached the god level, but his combat strength was comparable to a high-level god. Even now, when they thought about it, they still felt that it was unbelievable. Because of the path of light and darkness? Yen Fag's words were shocking. You can say that. Lin Feng smiled. Yen Fag in front of him was worthy of being the strongest person on the Origin Awakening list. His eyesight and perception were extraordinary. In front of him, it seemed that he had no secrets and could see through all of them. Yen Fag nodded slightly and sighed. If it wasn't recorded in the inherited memories, it would be hard to believe. Suddenly, there was a clang behind him. A pure white saber was unsheathed, and a golden dragon roared out. Yen Fag's eyes were burning as he held the saber. His aura suddenly skyrocketed, and his fighting spirit was endless. Clang! Black Lotus also flashed in Lin Feng's hand. Good saber, Yen Fag looked at Black Lotus and praised in surprise. Senior's saber is the same. Lin Feng had already sensed from Black Lotus's excitement that they had met their match. There would be fighting spirit between people, and sabers would also compete with each other. Especially Pinnacle True Treasures, which already had a weak spiritual sense. I'm very curious how powerful the fusion of light and darkness is. Yen Fag looked at Lin Feng with burning eyes. I promise I won't let you down. Lin Feng held Black Lotus, and his fighting spirit soared. Senior, be careful. Yen Fag laughed loudly. Come, fight with all your strength. If you can beat me, the light spot is yours. Okay. Lin Feng did not stand on ceremony. He had originally come for the light faction's quota. Chi. Chi. Boom. The two sabers roared as dragons soared and tigers roared. The two great experts of Origin Awakening continent fought fiercely. Chapter 2202. They were evenly matched. The battle between Lin Feng and Yen Fag caused the surrounding light elements to jump intensely, even tearing the space apart. The two peak sabers did not give way to each other. Light and darkness devoured each other, and their combat power was tyrannical. Impressive! Really impressive! Patriarch Dong Wang, who was watching from the side, opened his eyes wide without blinking for fear of missing this once-in-a-lifetime battle. One had been famous for a long time in the Origin Awakening continent and deserved to be called the strongest. The other was the future successor of the Milky Way human tribe, a super newcomer with unlimited potential. Seventh brother is really amazing. Dong Wang sighed in his heart. From the moment he entered the Milky Way human tribe until now, his seventh brother Lin Feng had completely surpassed him. When he was cultivating here, Dong Wang had a moment to feel good about himself, but now, far from it. Dong Wang smiled bitterly. Whether it was Yen Fa Jia or his seventh brother Lin Feng, he would lose in a one-on-one battle. He wasn't surprised that Yen Fa Jia was strong. What really shocked him was that his seventh brother, Lin Feng, was now able to compete with Yen Fa Jia. Maybe he can really win? Dong Wang was secretly looking forward to it. The possibility is less than 20%. In the fierce battle between Lin Feng and Yen Fa Jia, he was already very clear in his heart. They seemed to be evenly matched, but in fact, Yen Fa Jia was still at ease, and he had done his best. There was a gap in combat power, and a one-level gap was difficult to make up for, not to mention the geographical advantage. Yen Fa Jia was obviously better than him. However, this didn't mean that he would admit defeat. He still had trump cards and hidden cards in his hand. Shura's killing intent. Lin Feng used it for the first time, condensing the dark demon and the path of assassination. The ultimate meaning attached to the pinnacle true treasure, Shura King armor, exploded at this moment. His body seemed to be blurred, and an image of Shura overlapped behind him. Endless killing intent surged, and the two merged into one. Chi. A black helmet appeared, and the patterns on it were clear, like strange letters, shining with golden light. Deep mysterious patterns on the armor lit up. At this moment, Lin Feng was possessed by Shura, and his combat power soared instantly. Yen Fa Jia's eyes lit up. Darkness-type pinnacle true treasure? Almost at the same time, Yen Fa Jia retreated. Extreme light flashed in his hands, and beams of dazzling light fell from the void. They were like endless meteors falling from the sky, shining brightly. Hong, hong, hong. In the blink of an eye, they landed on the ground and transformed into mysterious patterns, condensing light energy. Light-type true treasure, pinnacle true treasure. 100,000 origin-level domain, a pinnacle true treasure domain. As the successor of the forbidden grounds of the heavenly path, Yen Fa Jia naturally understood the realms after great perfection. He had reached the origin realm a long time ago. In terms, Yen Fa Jia was Shura's. The pinnacle true treasure, firmament light, was not inferior to the Shura King armor in the first place. Now that it was augmented by the geographical advantage, it was naturally even stronger. Especially since firmament light was a domain-type ability. Was more powerful. Seventh brother is going to lose. Dong Wang sighed in his heart. This defeat is not because of the battle. Not far away, the real all-out battle had begun. Lin Feng's Shura's killing intent was like a mountain that kept climbing. The more they fought, the stronger it became. Yen Fa Jia turned into a domain, using control to stop the attack. He defended while waiting for an opportunity to counterattack and control the situation. The level and attack power of the battle had completely surpassed the battle between Yen Fa Jia and Wudong Dashan. Good. Very good. Yen Fa Jia's eyes shone brightly. The more he fought, the stronger he became. He was a battle maniac, so he was naturally happy to meet an opponent like Lin Feng. The more he fought, the more excited he became. The pinnacle true treasure Shura's, Yen Fa Jia hadn't used 100% of its power since he got his hands on it. Now that it was fully used, Yen Fa Jia was wild with joy. Battle power and true treasures were both sublimated and transformed through battle after battle. An opponent like Lin Feng was hard to come by. 10,000 annihilation. Lin Feng's power had reached the peak, surpassing the attack power of an ordinary top-tier god spirit. He could even defeat a guardian god directly. However, facing Yen Fagia, he still felt that he couldn't use up all his power. First, it was Yen Fagia's defense. Second, it was limited by the domain. The domain of a pinnacle true treasure, together with the enhancement of the terrain, was quite terrifying. Even he could only protect himself. Great blade technique. Yen Fagia's blade technique was slightly weaker than Lin Feng's, but the realm of his blade technique was slightly higher. The strength of his light energy was even more terrifying after the enhancement of the terrain. Together with the domain, he suppressed Lin Feng in all aspects. Pung! Pung! It was earth-shattering. Lin Feng's Shura's killing intent reached the peak, and his heart was completely integrated into his blade technique. This battle wasn't just an opportunity. It was also a rare learning opportunity. They both used blades and cultivated the path of light. And they were both human great beings. Kuan Ling Heart Arrow, Level 3. Lin Feng used his last trump card. It didn't work against a guardian god, but against other life forms, the soul attack was quite terrifying. However, even with Lin Feng's soul strength, the level of the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow's third level was only at the peak of high-level god spirit. Facing a top-tier god spirit great being, it was still lacking. Pung! Yen Fagia's mind went blank. At this point in the battle, Yen Fagia was finally defeated. He was shocked. His soul power was seriously consumed, and his combat power was sharply reduced. Even his control of heaven's light trembled. Yen Fagia's expression changed instantly. What a terrifying soul attack! It was comparable to the Destiny race. He didn't expect that Lin Feng, who was good at close combat, would have such a terrifying killer move. Great! Patriarch Donghuang, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but clench his fists. He was overjoyed. He thought that his seventh brother, Lin Feng, would be defeated. He didn't expect such a big reversal. Seeing Yen Fagia being forced back by Lin Feng's blade and heaven's light flickering and dimming, Donghuang nodded hard. From his point of view, he hoped that Lin Feng could win this battle. However, it wouldn't be easy. Phew! Yen Fagia, who was forced back by Lin Feng's blade, let out a long breath. He didn't panic because of the temporary disadvantage. He, who had been in battle for a long time, didn't rely on luck to achieve his current status and strength. Whoosh! His whole body shone brightly. The two hooks on Yen Fagia's forehead condensed into divine light. With his glabella as the center, all the major meridians in his body seemed to resonate. 108 light spots lit up, and they connected into a line in an instant. Bloodline, heavenly spirit, earthly fiend body. Boom! The powerful bloodline shocked even the heavens. Yen Fagia's aura suddenly skyrocketed. However, at this moment, another terrifying void arrow appeared in front of him, and it shocked Yen Fagia. Chi! The third level of the Kuan Ling Heart arrow pierced through for the second time. Ah! This time, Yen Fagia was really injured. No matter how strong his willpower was, he couldn't withstand this real soul attack. Yen Fagia's eyes were red, and countless drops of blood seeped out of his skin. He clenched his teeth. Boom! The golden dragon on the blade suddenly rushed out and bit Lin Feng. Chapter 2203. Pung! Pung! Yen Fagia attacked continuously. After activating his bloodline, his battle prowess had risen to a whole new level. His saber attacks were even more ferocious, like an injured beast. However, with his soul power injured, Yen Fagia's battle prowess had been greatly reduced. If he was in his best state, coupled with firmament light, Lin Feng would have been defeated long ago. However, Lin Feng's aura had increased, and Shura's killing intent had caused his killing intent to explode. He did not back down even half a step. This was because Lin Feng was very clear that as long as he took half a step back, he would lose today's battle. The possibility of winning was very low, but even if there was less than a 10% chance, he would still fight to the end. 10,000 annihilation. Lin Feng's decisive attack caused a change in 10,000 annihilation. Incomparable focus, extreme saber intent, and the concept of 10,000 annihilation faintly seemed to be comprehended. Shura's killing intent originally contained the Tao of assassination, which coincided with 10,000 annihilation, complementing each other. The surrounding light elements jumped even more intensely, and Yen Fag's saber arts of the Tao of Light gave Lin Feng a deeper understanding. This is the feeling. Light, using light to form a line as the body. Using the Tao of assassination as the heart. Boom! Lin Feng was forced back once again. The domain of firmament light was like threads binding him, but each thread contained the profound meaning of light. It seemed to penetrate the 10,000 annihilations Tao of light, allowing Lin Feng to master it. Again. Lin Feng's saber arts were imposing, and 10,000 annihilations' attack speed was even faster and fiercer. It was as if a giant python had transformed into a flood dragon, transforming in all aspects. Good kid. Yen Fagye praised. The more you fight, the stronger you become. With a flash of his eyes, the Big Dipper earthly fiend body lit up 72 meridian light spot. His saber techniques were connected, implying the Tao of space. Strands of saber intent formed 72 saber lights, attacking Yen Fagye from all directions. The strongest person on the Origin Awakener list used all his killing move. Chi. Using a single point to break the surface, Lin Feng was like a sharp knife stabbing into the enemy formation. His comprehension of 10,000 annihilation deepened with each slash. Even though his body felt like it was being cut to pieces, the astonishing defense of Shura's king armor made Lin Feng even more focused and decisive. Since it was a battle, there was no need to be afraid. Fight to the limit. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them were completely engrossed in the fierce battle. Dong Wang, who was watching from the side, was attracted by the fierce battle, especially the display of the great path of light, which benefited him a lot. His eyes flickered and he absorbed it hungrily. Too strong, too strong. Dong Wang muttered to himself as he gestured with his hands. At this moment, he no longer cared who won the battle in the end. How many years has it been? You're the first person to force me to use my full strength. At this time, the 72 light spots on Yen Fagye's body had dimmed and were replaced by 36 larger light spots. The golden dragon on the saber had completely swelled up, and the intensity of the aura and the concentration of the light elements were several times stronger than before. Lin Feng was not to be outdone. He benefited a lot from the all-out battle. His comprehension of 10,000 annihilation seemed to sublimate every second. With the extreme absorption of the light elements, the divine patterns of light became brighter, and the fusion of light and darkness became more balanced. The fusion foundation that had already reached the limit was now completed. The fusion of light and darkness, the seventh stage of the foundation. Fuse into one. This is fusion into one. Facing Yen Fagye's shocking slash, the 36 blades turned into one. Lin Feng also used the same slash. It pierced through the sky, and the light and darkness seemed to cover everything. Chi. With a slash, the space was shattered. The saber intent was released later, but it arrived first. The tyrannical power of the seventh stage of the fusion of light and darkness, mixed with the endless killing intent of Shura, condensed on the black saber and turned into an extremely refined slash. The 100% profound meaning of 10,000 annihilation was used. Boom! It was an astonishingly powerful slash. The 10 suns broken corridor shook violently. Even the 10 suns seemed to have been broken by this extremely tyrannical slash. It was earth-shattering. Patriarch Dongwang, who was at the side, had already condensed a layer of light around his body. He clicked his tongue in wonder and sighed in amazement. Too powerful. This slash completely subdued Patriarch Dongwang. Yen Fagye, the strongest person on the Origin Awakener list, was also included. I've lost. There was blood at the corner of Yan Fag's mouth. He looked at Lin Feng with bright eyes. His body was still standing, and the light of the sky around him had dimmed. It had already been broken. No, senior, you haven't lost yet. Lin Feng faced Yan Fag. His injuries were not light either. Although he had the upper hand, he was clear that Senior Yan Fa still had the strength to continue fighting. Especially when he felt that Senior Yan Fa's saber technique had not reached the extreme, as if he was still hiding something. Ah! Yan Fag laughed heartily, neither admitting nor denying it. Let's stop here. If we continue fighting, I'm afraid it won't be what we want. Yan Fag's eyes shone brightly, and the two hooks on his forehead flashed. The saber in his hand also let out a clanging sound and returned to its scabbard. His fighting spirit instantly vanished. Lin Feng also withdrew his black saber. If they continued fighting, it would be a fight to the death. With his and Senior Yan Fa's current combat strength and personality, it would be difficult to determine the winner unless one of them died. Senior Yan Fa should have stronger killing moves, but it would be difficult for him to control them perfectly. Moreover, when he was going all out, it was really difficult to divert his attention and hold back because it would affect his own strength. It was the same for him. He still had the power to attack with the third level of the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow, but if he used it again, it would be the same as last time. The fight between him and Senior Yan Fa was just to learn from each other, not to fight to the death. Then, who won? Patriarch Dongwang asked curiously. Yan Fag laughed. Since I admit defeat, the light spot is naturally Lin Feng's. Senior is generous, but I can't accept this spot. Lin Feng was not a thick-skinned person. If he took the spot without a winner, he would feel uneasy. Senior Yan Fa was courteous, but he couldn't accept it just like that. They looked at each other, appreciating each other. Take it, little brother. With your strength, you can enter the last 3 reincarnations and achieve great things. Yan Fag's eyes were bright, and he sighed softly. But my strength has reached a bottleneck, and it will be difficult for me to improve in a short time. Even if I pass the 4th reincarnation, it will be difficult for me to pass the 5th, let alone compete with him for the 6th. Lin Feng knew what Yan Fag meant. Senior Yan Fa's goal had always been not to advance, but to be the strongest in the reincarnation, the only peak god, Huanyu. There was only one successor in the reincarnation, and to pass all the reincarnations, he had to face Huanyu. However, this was not a reason for him to accept it. Others are fighting for it, but you two are pushing it back and forth. Dongwang said with a smile, well, let's stop fighting now. How about we compete again in 500 years? Yan Fag looked at Dongwang and raised his eyes, as if he knew what Dongwang was thinking. He smiled and said, okay. No problem, Lin Feng answered. Chapter 2204. After the battle with Yan Fag, Lin Feng immediately went into seclusion. He had benefited greatly from this battle. His mastery of Shura's killing intent was secondary. The most important thing was his comprehension of myriad annihilation and his mastery of the 7th stage of the fusion of light and darkness, become one, which greatly increased his combat power. I've finally comprehended it. After 10 years of seclusion, Lin Feng finally completely grasped the 5th move of the myriad annihilation heavenly blade. In the following decades, he cultivated the 7th stage of the fusion of light and darkness, become one, to perfection. Compared to the mastery of the blade technique, the fusion of light and darkness was much more difficult, especially the 7th stage, become one, which was a very important turning point. It was the limit of basic fusion and also a starting point. In the Wan Qian Dao, it was the beginning of the chapter of Dao validation. The chapter of Light and Darkness Dao validation uses light and darkness as the source to surpass the limit and roam the universe until the limit of the heavenly axiom. This was the most important cultivation path left behind by ancestor Wan Qian. It pointed directly to the limit of the heavenly axiom. The inheritance was hard to find. The foundation of the chapter of Tao validation was the fusion of light and darkness. First, one had to reach the 7th stage of the foundation, become one. Only after reaching the 7th stage of the foundation could one officially cultivate it. The first level of light and darkness is comparable to the strength of a peak god. The second level of light and darkness is comparable to the strength of a peak god. The third level of light and darkness is comparable to the strength of a peak god master. The fourth level of light and darkness is comparable to the strength of an ordinary supremacy. Almost no one below the god level is a match for him. After mastering the 5th level of light and darkness, one can surpass the limit and roam the universe freely. Every level of heaven was an extreme. Compared to other cultivation methods of the same level, it was more domineering and powerful. It reached the limit of each level. The first level of light and darkness is relatively easy to grasp because it fits the 7 stages of the foundation. It is a sublimation of the foundation. Lin Feng was familiar with the chapter of Tao validation. However, this so-called easy was relative. Compared to the other few levels of heaven, it was much easier. Although he knew about the other levels, the real difficulty was more complicated than the sum of the 1st to 7th stages of the foundation. Just like the 7th stage of the foundation, become one, the first level of light and darkness was also a hub. The crux of the cultivation of the chapter of Tao validation. There are 3 paths. First, find the formation of the light world. Second, cultivate the chapter of Tao validation. Thirdly, leave this place and search for more opportunities. The first path was somewhat dependent on luck. Lin Feng quickly rejected the idea. Rather than searching for the formation like a headless fly, it was better to cultivate steadily. He had never liked to rely on luck because his luck was not very good. The second path was a bit more difficult. Just from how long it took to cultivate the 7 basic stages of the fusion of light and darkness, one could see how difficult it was to cultivate the chapter of Tao validation. Even the first layer was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It required a lot of time and there was no guarantee of success. Even if I use up 500 years, I'm afraid I won't be able to reach the first layer of heaven. Lin Feng was not confident at all. If he were to waste 500 years like this, he would most likely be the one to lose the next battle. After all, he had performed exceptionally in the battle that day, but he had only managed to tie with Senior Yen Fa. If they fought again 500 years later, not to mention Senior Yen Fa's improvement, just based on the fact that Senior Yen Fa was already familiar with his moves, it was very likely that he would lose. Besides, he had a feeling that Senior Yen Fa's pinnacle true treasure, firmament light, had yet to unleash 100% of its power. It was very difficult for him to increase his combat power. If he were to increase it by 10% or 20%, 500 years would be more than enough. Under normal circumstances, it would be better for him to cultivate step by step. However, as Senior Yen Fa said, he had to take a long-term view. If his goal was to become a pinnacle god, he might not be able to catch up with him. It was not an unconventional move, but at least he had to take a little risk. Most importantly, he did not want to compete with Senior Yen Fa for a place in the world of light. If someone treated him with sincerity, he should return the favor with sincerity. Are you leaving? Patriarch Dongwang looked at Lin Feng. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Where are you going? Patriarch Dongwang asked. Lin Feng looked into the distance. According to Senior Yen Fa, the 10-directional treasure gathering array is probably in 8 directions now. Only the time side is likely to be empty, so I want to go there. The time side was on par with the space side. It was a heaven rank law and the foundation of the 10-directional treasure gathering array. It was the most difficult to break through. Unlike the space side, reincarnation destiny experts were usually good at the space Tao. None of the reincarnation destiny experts were good at the time law, including himself. This was limited by the geographical environment itself. Not only was the time energy scarce, but it was even rarer to have such a talent. Patriarch Dongwang nodded. I'm afraid only Hunchong can break through the time side with his strength. Other top gods may have a chance, but the chances are not great. Besides, they may have already advanced. If there was an easy path, they would not choose the difficult one. Moreover, the elemental side was easy to find, but the space and time side was not. It was hidden, and those who passed were few. Let's go and have a look. If he could not find any opportunities in the world of light, he might as well go to the time side to try his luck. Besides, Lin Feng was confident that he could defeat the time side's guardian if he had enough time. Seventh brother, since you have made up your mind, go ahead. Be careful, Patriarch Dongwang said. You too, Patriarch. Lin Feng smiled and said, if I still don't come back in 500 years, please tell Senior Yen Fa that he doesn't need to wait for me. Okay. Patriarch Dongwang nodded. It did not take much to understand each other's intentions. He left the world of light and entered the world of time. Although it was difficult to find the location of the time side and space side, it was no longer a secret. After learning the direction from Senior Yen Fa, Lin Feng quickly found the passage and entered. What a strange energy! What a strange place! Lin Feng entered and felt a little strange. On a wandering planet, he could not feel much time energy because the wandering planet itself was very special. It was the embodiment of the law of space. He could feel time energy in the Milky Way, but at that time, he was too weak and weak. It was very different from now. In terms of energy, well, this place is the same as the world of light. Lin Feng quickly determined. The time energy was still 100%. In other words, neither the formation nor the exit had been found. He was relieved. I wonder if the treasure place has been found? Lin Feng sped up and flew out. Even if I find it, I may not be able to defeat the guardian spirit beast. The guardian spirit beast of the time side should be stronger than the elemental side's guardian spirit beast, right? In addition, the strength of other powerhouses is weakened when they enter here. Even if I find the treasure place, the possibility of killing the guardian spirit beast is not high. It's not bad to get a time treasure. Let's look for it first. Chapter 2205. It was a brand new territory, a land that had yet to be explored. Traveling on the side of time didn't make Lin Feng feel uncomfortable at all. Instead, he felt very comfortable. The exotic beasts here were also quite strong, much stronger than the elemental side. Basically, they were all high-level deities. Many of them had even reached the limit of high-level deities, and could even be compared with the guardian deities of yin-yang, heaven and earth. What kind of secret technique is this? It's amazing. Lin Feng was very curious to compete with the exotic beasts. They often had talent abilities. He had never come into contact with the path of time before, but he was very familiar with it. It seems that my talent in the path of time isn't bad. Lin Feng smiled. He could vaguely feel the existence of the law of time here. It wasn't very clear, but it felt good. With a high level of life, his comprehension of other laws was naturally clear, such as the path of earth and the path of wind. Although his aptitude wasn't very good, he was naturally much more talented than ordinary experts when cultivating with his current level of life. It was the same for the law of time. However, since he had chosen to follow the path of his ancestors and cultivate the path of light and darkness, whether it was the path of space or the path of time, they were only auxiliary. Moreover, even if his talent in the path of time was extraordinary, it was too late to start now. At least, it wasn't the right time to cultivate now. Moving around, Lin Feng didn't choose to use his secret technique to double the speed of light. Instead, he slowed down and competed with the beast. It was different from when he was in the world of light. In the world of time, he was free to fly. He was sure that no expert could pass through the world of time now. However, he was very confident. Even if the geographical advantage was weakened and he couldn't defeat the guardian deity of the world of time, he still had a lot of time to improve himself. Just as Senior Yen Fa had seen, he had to set his goal further. His goal wasn't the 4th or 5th reincarnation, but peak deities, bastards, and to pass through all 6 reincarnations. To achieve this goal, he couldn't do it with his current strength. However, the time limit of the 3rd reincarnation wasn't up yet. He had a lot of time to use, so he wasn't in a hurry. As he honed his combat strength along the way, Lin Feng explored the world of time. Here, time seemed to have stopped. Some were fast, some were slow, and some were reversed. It was constantly changing. The law of time affected the world of time. Here, it was impossible for time to flow in the correct way everywhere. A single time acceleration could mean hundreds or thousands of years have passed. Lin Feng knew very well that this was in conflict with the essence of the 10-direction treasure convergence formation. The formation wouldn't be in disorder, and it would carry out an infinite cycle according to a unique law. The basic flow of time would not change. There's a clear contrast. In fact, it's much easier to comprehend the laws of time. With reference and comparison, he could deepen his comprehension of the laws of time. He didn't even need to comprehend the true meaning of time and could directly cultivate the laws of time. Chi. Lin Feng killed an exotic beast with a casual swing of his saber. Their energy is very intimate. It's actually similar to spatial energy. In terms of perception, it was naturally inferior to space energy. After all, Yang Kai's attainments in space were already very high, so his perception was naturally clear. His comprehension of the temporal laws was still muddled. It was not that easy to gain a basic understanding of the Empyrean laws. However, he could more or less estimate his talent in the laws of time. It can't compare to the laws of space. However, compared to the Tao of Earth and Tao of Wind, it seems to be slightly stronger. It is almost comparable to the Tao of Thunder. Lin Feng could clearly distinguish. With his time talent, it was somewhat difficult for him to achieve great success. However, if he just cultivated a little, his attainments would not be too bad. Of course, it would definitely take a lot of time. I just have to choose one of the Empyrean laws. The main thing is to peek at the heavenly Tao through the Empyrean laws. Although the fusion of light and darkness has long surpassed the Empyrean laws, combat strength is one thing, and the realm is another. Lin Feng was very clear about the difference. However, since he majored in the fusion of light and darkness, the Empyrean laws were destined to be auxiliary. It assisted in the improvement of the level of life and the comprehension of the realm. Having the laws of space was enough. If he cultivated the laws of time, which was slightly inferior in terms of aptitude, it would seem a little useless. Whoosh! Lin Feng quickly shuttled through. In this strange area of time, although it made him feel very comfortable, he didn't feel much else. After killing many strange beasts, Lin Feng's attention was focused on finding the exit and treasure grounds. Hard work paid off. After exploring more than 60% of the area, Lin Feng finally gained something. Where is this? Lin Feng sighed softly and looked around. The rich distribution of the elements of time completely covered the space. It was an empty and quiet place. It was like a time matrix that was eternal and unchanging. The huge heavenly might was like the boundless universe, pressing down on one side of the world. Before stepping into it, he could already feel the heavy pressure and his own insignificance. Buzz. Even the guardian god's aura was unusually majestic. Under the condensation of the elements of time, his body seemed to be transparent. His eyes were full of spirit, and he held 2 swords in his hands. His strength was unfathomable. He guarded an area like a divine soldier. above the powerful top-level gods, but not the limit of top-level gods. Lin Feng was shocked. As expected. After all, the guardians of the light and darkness sides were already ordinary top-level gods. The guardian god of the time side was naturally stronger, especially when he was proficient in the laws of time. Although the guardian god was a powerful top-level god, his combat power was much stronger. As a powerful top-level god, the guardian god who was proficient in the elemental Tao would definitely be weaker than the guardian god who was proficient in the laws of heaven. No wonder none of the experts here were able to obtain a slot. Lin Feng nodded to himself. The strongest top-level gods were at the limit of top-level gods, but their strength would be weakened here. Especially since the top-level gods of the God-fallen world were proficient in the laws of space, they would be weakened even more. At the limit of top-level gods, they could at most display the combat power of a powerful top-level god. How could they win? Moreover, among all the top-level gods in the reincarnation of destiny, how many could reach the limit of top-level gods? No one could defeat the guardian god of the time side except for Huai Kong. He couldn't do it either. With the 7th stage of light and darkness fusion, perfect mastery of absolute annihilation, and the 3rd stage of Kuan Ling heart arrow and Shura's killing intent, I can only compete with Senior Yen Fa. Without the 3rd stage of Kuan Ling heart arrow and the weakening of the terrain, I can only display the combat power of a normal top-level god. If he could display the combat power of a powerful top-level god, he might have a chance, but now, his chances of winning were less than 1 in 10,000. Chapter 2206. Sizzle. The time matrix cracked as a ripple appeared, and a figure appeared from within. His aura was chaotic, and the elemental energy fluctuations were especially intense. Hating let out a strong clang as Lin Feng withdrew from the time matrix. Suddenly, his figure flashed and disappeared. Clang. The protector held 2 swords and condensed the power of time. He appeared like a judge, seemingly stopping everything. The 2 swords slashed apart, and everything around him fell, rumbling unceasingly. However, Lin Feng had long since disappeared. Swoosh. The protector put away his swords and returned to the time matrix. Tyrannical combat strength, coupled with the geographical advantage, the protector of time's battle strength was terrifying. In the distance, a secret technique erupted at double the speed of light. Lin Feng had already retreated thousands of miles away. If he had been a step late, he would have been imprisoned by time, unable to leave even if he wanted to. Although he was injured at this time, his injuries weren't serious. Powerful indeed. Lin Feng's expression was calm. This defeat was within his expectations, but it was more to test the protector's strength. It was indeed extraordinary. With his current strength, it wouldn't be easy to obtain a slot. However, there was only motivation with a challenge. Since he could pass the 3rd reincarnation here, then there was no need to fulfill the 500-year agreement with Yen Fa. He didn't like owing others favors. Right here. Defeat it and obtain the last slot. Lin Feng made his decision. The slot on the light side was easily obtained, but this wasn't the choice he wanted. When you chose the shortcut, then the only path ahead of you was the shortcut. What if I can't even pass this hurdle? Even if I enter the 4th and 5th reincarnation, I will still be eliminated. Lin Feng was very clear. The 3rd reincarnation was a turning point, and at the same time, a rare opportunity. If he could make good use of it, he would be able to catch up and truly be ranked in the top echelon of all the reincarnation. Continue exploring. The time side was very large, more than twice as large as the elemental side. Previously, he had explored 60% of the area, and Lin Feng explored the remaining 40%. Although he was not proficient in the Tao of Time, since he had decided to walk this path, he naturally wanted to walk it to the best of his ability. Demi-immortal laws, the Tao of Time. Lin Feng wasn't exactly like a fish in water here, but he wasn't in any danger. There were no shackles or obstacles. Bad luck? Lin Feng looked around. He had already explored 90% of the area, but until now, he still hadn't found the location of the treasure. Or has the treasure been taken away, so you can't even find the treasure ground? Lin Feng secretly exhorted and frowned slightly. This possibility shouldn't be high. The Guardian of Time has such strength. Although the Guardian's spiritual beast's strength is only 30%, it shouldn't be underestimated. With my current battle prowess, the possibility of defeating the Guardian Beast is less than 20%. In the entire reincarnation cycle, the number of people who can defeat a Guardian Spirit Beast can be counted on one hand. With the strength of those experts, they basically won't waste time on the side of time. After all, the treasures on the side of time are of little value to them. Lin Feng searched everywhere. Although the treasures on the side of time were also of little value to him, he naturally wouldn't complain about having too many treasures, especially pinnacle true treasures. Yen Fag's firmament light, his Shura King armor, both could rapidly increase his battle prowess. Perhaps the pinnacle true treasures on the side of time could increase his battle prowess without needing to cultivate. It should be soon. After exploring the remaining 10% of the area, I'll definitely gain something. Lin Feng made good use of the time. He clearly sensed the area around him, not letting go of any details. At this time, he was in a strange and variegated passageway. The law of time was very complicated. If one's mind wasn't strong enough, it was easy to get lost and not be able to distinguish between front and back. Being lost in time was more troublesome than being lost in space. However, space was more effective on the physical body, while time was more of a source of the soul. It wasn't difficult to resist the law of time, especially since Lin Feng's soul was quite strong and he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone to protect his origin. Although the time energy here is ever-changing, it's obviously more concentrated and abundant than in other places. Maybe the treasure ground is here. When things were abnormal, there had to be something wrong. The stranger the area, the more likely it was. Lin Feng knew this very well. His soul power searched around, and his self-cultivation seemed to be shaken by silent magnetic waves, causing waves of ripples. Pung! Pung! The invisible power eroded the soul and weakened the will, but Lin Feng didn't have time to care about it. No matter how much it eroded, it couldn't break the defense of the 10,000 origin mustard stone. What a strange place. Lin Feng's mind was as one, and his eyes were sharp. But the entire passageway is the same. There are no traces of the treasure ground or guardian spirit beast. It's strange. Whoosh! Whoosh! Waves of time energy poured in and gathered. Lin Feng let out a soft cry of surprise, and suddenly felt a little surprised. My body is also absorbing time energy? It was very weak. It was so weak that he could barely feel it. There were no traces outside, but the time energy here was more abundant and concentrated. Plus, his soul was more focused, so he could feel it. Wisps of time energy seemed to be swept into his body by the wind, but they disappeared in an instant. Where did they go? Oh, it's this. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Returning to the origin and searching for the source, he discovered that it was his black vortex that was causing trouble. The form of the vortex was the third stage of the black vortex. It was like a tornado that was gathering the elements of time and devouring them bit by bit. Compared to the black vortex's own energy and the origin of space, this time energy was extremely weak, so he couldn't feel it at all. However, it was truly happening. Is it because they are both heaven-rank law elements, so space energy can eat time energy as food? Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully. Although he didn't understand, it should be possible. Space and time were of the same origin. It was natural for the two to assimilate. Lin Feng didn't think too much about it. His attention was more focused on exploring this strange time passageway. He moved forward quickly. Unknowingly, the black vortex was swallowing more and more time energy, adding on the time energy it had absorbed since entering the time side. The current amount had reached a critical point, and the accumulation was very deep. What Lin Feng didn't see was that the time essence absorbed was actually absorbed by the black vortex, and not space essence. Although the two were both heaven rank laws, they were clearly separated. 1 was 1, 2 was 2. Bang, bang, bang. His heart beat faster. Lin Feng, who was moving quickly, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Chapter 2207. A strange feeling filled his heart, and Lin Feng, who was moving quickly, suddenly stopped. The feeling was getting stronger, and the reaction was getting stronger. It was as if a wave of power had surged into his heart, and it was also as if the energy that originally existed had awakened. Lin Feng was greatly moved. He instantly sat cross-legged, and his mind and mind were as one. All the power condensed into one. Black vortex. Oh! This time, Lin Feng sensed it clearly. Vortexes appeared one after another, and the black vortex seemed to have changed. Inside the endless space vortex there was a trace of a different kind of energy. Although it was very small, like a speck of dust in the universe, it truly existed. It kept expanding and strengthening, and it was not merged by the space element. Coexistence. Lin Feng was shocked. The law of time and the law of space coexisted. It was not absorbed by it, nor was it changed. It formed another component of the black vortex. Although it was very small and far inferior to the space elements, its existence showed that the black vortex was different. It was not what he thought and was sure of before. The black vortex, perhaps, was not just a pure space bloodline. It contains space and time at the same time. The black vortex is not simple. The black vortex had never absorbed time energy before because there was no time elemental energy on the wandering planet, let alone absorbing it. But it was completely different here. It seemed to be destined to bring him to the side of time. The law of attraction. My light divine pattern and dark demonic pattern are quite extraordinary. When combined, it is a powerful bloodline that is rarely seen in the universe. It is of the same origin as my ancestors' bloodline. The black vortex coexists with it. Naturally, it is not much different. I have always treated it as an intermediary, a buffer zone. But I have never thought that it also has unfathomable power. It is just that it has never been discovered and is hidden very deeply. Lin Feng sighed softly. He felt that the condensation of time elemental energy had caused a slight change in the black vortex, just like the condensation of space elemental energy had caused a change in his bloodline. From nothing to something, from zero to the first stage. The change was very weak. At present, whether it was the level of life or energy, such a change was almost impossible to feel. But it did exist and evolve. The future was promising. I wonder what the true appearance of the black vortex will be like? Lin Feng was very curious. At this time, the first stage of the black vortex's transformation was almost complete. Its perception of the time element was much stronger than before. With a thought, Tian Ho's innate talent of time and his sixth sense faintly reacted. This time law passage was not ordinary. As expected, the treasure land is here? Lin Feng couldn't explain it at the moment. After all, it was just a vague sixth sense. But since there was a feeling, it proved that his guess might be correct. His sixth sense had never deceived him. Because this was the power of a heaven-tier cultivator, the fourth aperture's perception ability. After searching over and over again, Lin Feng believed in his own judgment. Since he could sense it, it must be here. 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, the entire time passage, including the changes in the laws, gradually became familiar with it. Every time, he could sense something strange, but he was unable to discover it. In the end, it was because he was lacking in his time talent. Even though he could be considered to have awakened his bloodline, this was only the first stage, and there was still a huge gap between him and his talent in the Tao of space. However, it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. At least the time energy here was quite abundant, and he could absorb it faster than the outside world. Especially now that his time talent had improved, the absorption was twice the result with half the effort, and the energy accumulation was full. 20 years later, Hua Lin Feng's body shook violently, and he finally stopped. In this time passage, one could clearly know where it was even with their eyes closed. They knew it like the back of their hand. However, the changes in his body did not originate from the Tao of time, but from the Tao of light. The divine light rhinoceros horn had been completely refined. Finally, Lin Feng let out a long sigh and sighed in his heart. The formation of the sixth great Tao of Light's law all made the divine patterns of light extremely perfect. All the branches and veins were like exquisite jade carvings, without any flaws. A strange energy appeared, and the 100,000 great Tao of light entered a new realm. When he closed his eyes, it was as if he was bathing in the universe of light. All the elements of light and the Tao of light were comprehended. A crack seemed to open in the sky, as if the heavenly eye had opened. Majestic power descended, and he broke out of his cocoon and became a butterfly. What Lin Feng didn't see was that the scene was exactly the same as what appeared in his mind. Even if he was in the 10-directional treasure-gathering formation, he couldn't block the true power of the heavens, the supreme law of the universe. The light beam descended from the sky and completely enveloped Lin Feng. The divine patterns of light hungrily absorbed the divine light of the heavens, growing rapidly like a small sapling. Whoosh, the branches and leaves bloomed. Whoosh, it bore fruit. Whoosh, perfect evolution. Whoosh, everything changed completely. Extreme transformation. This was something Lin Feng didn't expect when he refined the divine light rhinoceros horn. The divine patterns of light broke through the shackles almost instantly and entered the fifth stage. There was no need for any accumulation. The light of the heavens had already turned it into a butterfly. The 6 divine patterns appeared clearly and became the bloodline root of the divine patterns of light. Endless energy accumulated and accelerated the absorption. Lin Feng's divine patterns of light were reaching the limit of the 5th stage. Pull one hair and affect the whole body. Great change. For Lin Feng, the clouds parted to see the moon. His previous accumulation transformed at this moment. As the divine patterns of light advanced, his life level sublimated, and he took the final step. Although his accumulation of heavenly laws was very meager, he had reached the critical point of transformation. His entire body, together with his soul, let out a light sound. It was like a gift from the heavens. Beams of light descended. Lin Feng was like a proud son of the heavens, wantonly absorbing the purest energy of the universe and transforming. His cells changed, his genes transformed, his skin, bones, flesh, and even his soul advanced. His life level sublimated. Lin Feng had truly advanced from a god-level expert to a god-level expert. Even if he was only a low-level god, this was a huge leap in life level. This time, it wasn't a change in combat strength. Of course, the great leap in life level would inevitably lead to a change in combat strength. Endless energy poured in and absorbed. His body seemed to have opened a valve, absorbing not only the power of the heavens but also the surrounding elemental energy. Especially the time energy in this area, it was extremely dense and crazily poured into his body. Hiss, the black vortex was no longer absorbing. Instead, it was gobbling them up. Lin Feng was immersed in this wonderful feeling. At this moment, he was completely stunned by the continuous surprises. After thousands of years of accumulation, there was finally a great transformation.